Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 on 92.1 FM on the ESPN 700 app, streaming on YouTube. Find us everywhere. Glad to have you with us. Fun show lined up for you today. Scott Mitchell is going to drop by. That might not be a happy conversation. Scott Mitchell at noon. Josh Newman to talk the national landscape of college football. The head coach of Real Salt Lake, Pablo Mastroeni. And then we'll check in on the World Series with Chad Jennings of The Athletic. All of that coming. My guy Alonzo Sariñana is on the ones and twos today, pressing the buttons, helping me to react to your feedback here. As Utah football, for the first time since 2017, stop me if this sounds familiar, is on now a 4-game losing streak. After really an ugly, disgusting, terrible road loss to the University of Houston Cougars. Remember what I said last week? How you have these explanations and these built-in things that you've decided were the reason Utah dropped the last 3. And if it happened again in Houston, you were really going to be wondering what the bleep happened to this football team. That's where we all are right now. 877-353-0700. Call it whatever you want. If it's a Monday airing of grievances, if it's just you telling me how you feel, I don't know. I don't even want to have fun with this anymore. It is disgusting what has happened to this team in the year of our Lord 2024. This was a Utah football team that at Big 12 Media Days, we saw everyone, not just locals here in Salt Lake City, everyone decided that this was the team that was most likely to make a college football playoff appearance as the eventual Big 12 champion. This was the team that was most likely to rise to the top of what we thought would be a league with a lot of parity. And instead, this is a team heading into the second bye week that is in the conversation for worst teams in the conference. Now, I'm okay with the fact, I'm comfortable with the fact that we in the media, we as sports fans, we as sports observers, we are wrong so often about preseason expectations. We're just way off so many times about which players are going to be the best. I mean, it's not just Utah. Oklahoma State is the reason you're not the actual bottom dweller in the conference right now. Thank goodness for the Cowboys, because their season is even worse. And their season is actually harder to explain why it is so much worse, because there is no starting quarterback injury at Oklahoma State University. They had 20 of 22 potential starters returning, 20 of 22 potential starters with time under their belts as having been part of successful football teams, and still they are this bad. But it only makes you feel a tiny bit better, because right now the University of Utah football team is unrecognizable. This is not the thing. It was death, taxes, and Utah football playing clean, physical ball, even if a guy like Cam Rising gets hurt. Take it back to a year ago. What did you know was going to happen with Utah? You were going to get phenomenal effort. Your defense was going to show up, and the other team, whatever happened, the other team was not going to be able to run the ball on you. And instead, this is a team that has been further decimated by injury, that whatever the culture, that constant we talked about being so reliable with Kyle Whittingham as the head coach, it is missing in 2024. There has been an erosion. I'm not going to say it's gone, but there has been an erosion of what Utah football culture is in the program, in the stadium, on the radio, everywhere. And it's a little bit embarrassing to realize how tenuous that balance was. It's a little bit humbling to realize, wow, I thought that this thing was a fortress, that it was going to take years and years and years of constant attack to even like potentially break down. And right now, Utah football is teetering on the absolute brink of a disaster season. It has already been massively disappointing. It has already been hard to watch. It has already been unexplainable. Your Super Bowl is coming in 12 days. If you can beat BYU, as sad and pathetic as this sounds, it redeems a hell of a lot of things that we've already watched.
So as you watched the game on Saturday, like we texted a little bit, right? But I was dealing with some stuff during the game. As you sat there and watched it, like for you, just what's the problem? Because they try to get Munir McClain involved, they try to get Landon King involved, they try to get everyone involved. Money Parks ends up in a sling, so that's a bummer. They couldn't really. Obviously, there's the Zach Wilson play to Keefe, right? 71-yard touchdown.
You just did what the broadcast crew did.
What?
Called him Zach Wilson.
Sorry, Isaac Wilson. I'm tired, OC. Forgive me, all right?
No, you're forgiven. I'm just like, that happened 7 times on the broadcast.
Oh, boy. But, I mean, they tried to get all these guys involved, right? And just nothing. Then they make the switch from Wilson to Rose. Rose, was the guy that was trying to kind of get everyone involved as well. We even saw, again, it was just a hodgepodge of stuff that just nothing could get working. So if it's OC is the OC, if OC's the head coach, whatever, what do you surmise it to if you can even surmise it?
Well, we were just dead wrong about this team having depth in certain spots. We were just dead wrong about it. We were completely overestimating the level of talent that this team really has. And if this is me, who's the head coach, and again, there's not really a concrete answer here, and that's what we were looking for in the last 3 weeks. How many times did you watch the games against Arizona and Arizona State and these previous losses that were so hard for you to swallow? How many times you say, well, if you would just give the ball to Mekhi Bernard more, everything would be fine. Or you said if you would just throw it to Keefe more, it would be fine. If you would just stop being so predictable and motioning Luca Caldarella in to help block, it would be fine. If you would just stop doing this or you would start doing that, and you were giving these concrete answers to your friends and your family and here on the radio, and you were saying, if this, then that. I don't know if there's a solution in the locker room right now. I don't know if your answer is on that team right now. This is a broken football team right now. The question for me is, can you fix a broken team in the season? And look, we have seen teams bounce back, and especially in this Big 12 season, we have seen squads that look inept one week, turn it around, and suddenly be playing winning football the next week. That's what you have to hope for the University of Utah. But make no mistake that 12 days from now is the toughest test you are going to face, because that BYU team is not only good, but they're doing the things that you are not. They are playing hard on every single down. They are forgetting their mistakes as soon as they make them. They are supporting one another as teammates. The body language on the sideline is 100% better. You know where the real problem I have is here, Alonzo?
What's that?
Is that you look at the culture of Colorado football right now, and it looks like it's in a better place than Utah football right now. I'm not talking about the talent. I'm talking about
culture.
You look about when a player for Colorado makes a play or doesn't make a play, makes a mistake, misses something, whatever. The body language, the response, the everything at Colorado looks like it's more articulated and figured out than what you're seeing from Utah football right now. Do you know how disgusting that is?
That's pretty atrocious.
Colorado was supposed to be this house of cards, this flash-only type of thing. This, hey, yeah, well, you built that on money, but money doesn't sustain all the things that are important here, right? Utah is supposed to be the antidote to the NIL era and the changing of the guard and the transfer portal instability. Utah's football culture is supposed to be the thing that solves that problem. And somehow it has eroded rapidly. Over the course of these last 4 weeks, we have seen like a flood of negativity undermine the foundation, and now this damn thing is ready to slide off the side of the mountain. I never, ever, ever thought we would get to this point with Kyle Whittingham as the head coach of Utah football. And I know he feels the same way. There is disbelief even in the building that this is happening. And the question, what do the Utes do now? What do they do to turn it around? There's no obvious answer. There's no first blush thing. You say, oh, well, if you do this, then that. If you start somebody besides Isaac Wilson, then it'll play better. If Cam Rising gets healthy, then the team will rally. If Andy Ludwig is gone and he's not the guy calling the plays anymore, then there will be more creativity and the execution will be better and whatever. Andy Ludwig wasn't the problem, just like we thought. Like, is this really the move that everyone needs? Is there really a need for a new voice? No, you know what there's a need for? New effort. There's a need for new execution. There's a need for new players at certain positions. That is ugly.
Well, and we did see, even Zipper made an appearance, right? And that's he's a young guy. I know that they're really high on him, and that's kind of how you know that you're trying. Hey, let's get a new guy in here. Let's see what he does.
Which I love, by the way.
Yeah,
like that. That's something that you needed to see this week. And I didn't know who was going to be. Carson Ryan got targeted. That was the first time in however many weeks he wasn't
had a reception.
He wasn't just an athletic offensive lineman. And look, no block, no rock. Do your thing, especially as a tight end. Use the physicality that God gave you. And he's been doing that thanklessly.
Yeah.
For several weeks. Jalen Glover. You got Jalen Glover back involved. This is what a team that is inept offensively needs to do. See if you can find a spark. It was a hot debate. As I'm watching the game, I do this only with Utah games, but I'll have my laptop on the couch, sometimes on my lap, and I'll be watching social media as I'm watching the game, right? And there was, I think, an even 50-50 split of fans that were like, the responses were either, why are you benching Isaac Wilson? Or, nice, this is exactly what you need to do. So there's no agreement there. And I imagine there was some disagreement even on the coaching staff about what's the right move. But it can't get any worse. So go ahead and do it. Right?
Yeah, no, you got to light a fire somehow, and you can't. For me, when he came out and he started kind of trying to get guys involved, that's when you saw, okay, there's effort here, right? They're trying. But the toughest part of it all was those same guys that were kind of that we heard of throughout the week, right? That were making those cryptic posts that you talked about. They get targeted, they have those opportunities, and they didn't execute.
There's a drop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Brandon Rose, I'm not the person, I try not to be the person who tells you, oh, the greatest thing when your quarterback is struggling is that backup quarterback. Thankfully, we can pull receipts if we really need to. I always go back and I say, we have no idea. Maybe he sucks in practice. Maybe he's not doing things the right way with his film study. Maybe there's a reason why this coaching staff is reluctant to take the keys away from the freshman. I think part of that reason is fear of transfer portal. And I think that's the reason why there are some guys who are still playing who should not be.
No, and the portal is a massive factor now. It's a massive factor.
Especially when, you've got teams in your own conference, in your own home state, but certainly in the surrounding states as well, that recruited these same players, just like you do with the guys that you get in the transfer portal. You maintain those relationships a little bit, and then suddenly Utah has a bad football season, and all of a sudden people's DMs are lighting up. And you don't want to add fuel to that fire by being the guy who pulled someone when they were playing okay football. Well, guess what? Okay football has gotten you to this place. If you have a bunch of dudes playing okay football, you're going to lose games. If you have 2 of your 9 defensive players playing okay football, you can still win. If you got 6 of your 11 on that side playing okay football, that's a loss. All right? You need better than okay. And Utah, that's been, for me, the biggest thing with this defense. Most of the problems are offensive. But as soon as I mention the fact that this defense needs to be better, do you know what happens?
They don't.
Immediately, violent reaction. Don't blame it on the defense. Yes, blame it on the defense too. Is the defense better than the offense? Of course they are. Is the defense giving up drives and plays and yardage that they should not give up? Is one player in particular guilty of getting juked out of his jock on seemingly every important down that Utah football plays that would change the landscape of a game, that would stop an opponent's drive? Has that happened now half a dozen times over the course of these 4 straight losses? Yeah. So when I say the defense needs to be better too, that's what I'm talking about. And if you're like, well, the defense is better than the offense, it's okay. Wrong. Don't do that. The enemy of great is good.
And to add insult to injury, Cole Becker misses not 1 but 2 field goals.
Yes.
And you absolutely know that Coach Witt was losing it internally when that happened.
If I had told you at the beginning of the year that Houston was going to rush for 230 yards,
would have called you a drug addict
on the University of Utah football defense, you'd have thrown up in your mouth while you were lying, while you were getting mad at me.
Yes.
Being like, you're a liar.
Yeah.
And look, do I think that Morgan Scalley is doing a better job than the offensive side of the ball is right now? Yes, I do. But do I think that Morgan Scalley is in any way satisfied or happy with what happened, giving up 17 points to Houston? I know. The analytics tell you if all you do is give up 17 points and you have 2 goal line stands, that is a winning formula for a team. I know. All right? But you're not living in a vacuum as a defensive player on this Utah football squad. You're looking at it and you're saying, well, our offense on a good day is probably going to give us 20 points. Our offense on a good day might get us 17 points. I mean, if Cole Becker does his job, this game is 20-17, and we're still talking about how ugly it is.
But it's a win.
But it's a win, right? And then I probably would have less to say about giving up 230 yards of rushing offense to the University of Houston. But right now, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, your offense only rushed for 90 yards. You know who that is? That is your offensive line.
Yeah.
You know whose fault that is? That's your own line. You know why when you're playing a freshman quarterback or a backup freshman, or excuse me, a backup sophomore, when you're playing a guy who at the beginning of the year was your 3rd-string quarterback, you have to start calling plays that get the ball out of his hand in 1.5 seconds because your offensive line doesn't believe. Your offensive line is playing substandard football right now, and that guy does not have the same acumen or ability to progress through his reads, to find the right receiver. What did I text you when Utah got the ball and it was like, all right, a scoring drive here and you probably win this game?
Let me pull up the receipt because we actually texted quite a bit. Let's go here.
It was hindsight, so it doesn't really. But you just knew that there was going to be a situation where somebody tried to do too much, force a ball in somewhere, push too hard on the pile, try to put the hand down and get extra yardage and not concentrate on ball security. And it was just like you couldn't have faith anymore. And, of course, then the interception, the unfortunate timing of another turnover, and Houston gets to salt the game away. And it's just so frustrating to watch because this is the stuff that Utah used to not do poorly.
Sean O'Connell, I take no comfort from this, period.
Like, whatever your reaction is right now, panic, fear, despair, abject sadness, apathy, which is the worst one. I understand. This was so hard to watch. And I really wanted, Alonzo, I wanted to come on the radio today and I wanted to say, all right, here's what the solution is. But I'm not going to pretend that I'm a better football coach than Kyle Whittingham or Morgan Scalley or Sharif Shah or Mike Bajakian or Jim Harding. I'm not going to pretend that I know how to fix whatever the hell is wrong with this team, but I can tell you this. You know, when you find when you go to a Christmas party and there's going to be somebody there. Halloween party, it's more seasonally appropriate. Although in Halloween parties, the costumes can kind of mask things. But you know how sometimes you go and you see somebody and you're just like, oh, man, are you sick? No, I'm fine. No, for real. Like, what's wrong? Are you okay? No, I'm good. What's up? No, tell me what's wrong with you. Because they're just standing there and they got like a sickly pall about them.
Yeah. Maybe
a little sweat on the brow. They're still, they're pounding drinks. They're having their pigs in a blanket. They're having snacks. You're just like, hey, man, you don't look right. Are you okay? Like, yeah, what's up? What do you mean? I'm fine. But you just know there's something wrong. And it's not like they've got a cold. You know there's something serious going on. There's a bleeding ulcer somewhere. We know that's true about Utah football right now. I don't know the reason behind it. I don't know if the NIL thing has affected the relationships that used to be so strong in this locker room. I don't know if the Cam Rising injury saga over these last 2 years has created an irreparable fracture in the locker room. I don't know if leadership, player leadership, and coach leadership has somehow lost its authority with this team because of back-to-back-to-back losses, and maybe because a decision was made by Andy Ludwig or in Andy Ludwig's favor or disfavor. I don't know what the reason is, and I really wanted to come on the show today and offer you some kind of solution, some kind of reassurance. All I know is that this team is sick from the inside out, and you've got 12 days to either cut out that cancer or to get, on that Z-Pack and the IVs and tape it all up, rub some dirt on it, and you got to figure out whatever this illness is of the Utah football core. You got to try to root it out in the next 12 days, or you're going to end up missing a bowl game in 2024. Because if you get boat raced at home by BYU, it ain't going to look better against Iowa State and UCF and anyone else. You're not going to magically bounce back. Colorado is going to hurt you to the core of your culture if you don't fix this in the next 12 days. You have 12 days, if you're a Utah football player or coach, to not completely rebuild everything, to not right the ship all the way, because you're still going to be chugging along with a few leaks. But you have got to get this thing functioning in the next 12 days, because that is your 0 hour. When you kick off against BYU, it either goes up from there or it goes down from there. That's it. 12 days. The countdown begins. Well, the countdown already began.
Best say it started Saturday night.
Yeah, the countdown began Saturday night.
And so okay. So again, I ask you this from your perspective, having been in the locker room up there. For the next 12 days, what do you do? Obviously there's going to be practices, they're going to be brutal, all that stuff. It gives Bajakian an opportunity to take a deeper dive into the playbook, see what works for Rose, see what works for Wilson, see what works for the Ferrari, even for Sam Heward, I assume. Like, what do you do for the next 12 days, at least on that side?
Okay. I, again, do not think that I'm a better football coach than any of the guys on staff up there. But because you asked me this question, if they came to me and said, how are you running practice for the next 12 days? We are competing. All right? It's spring football again. Yes, you need to get Keanu Tanuvasa and Junior Tafuna all the way healthy. Karene Reed can sit out. I trust him and I believe in him. Brant Keithy has proven himself time and time again. I don't need to hurt him anymore, okay? His resume is intact, all right? Mekhi Bernard has done everything I've asked of him this year. Mekhi, he can sit and he can watch, and I'll give him a damn whistle and a clipboard if he wants. Everybody else on this team is competing their ass off for the next 12 days. If you want to play against BYU, you better be lifting harder than the guy behind you. You better be running faster than the guy behind you. You better be getting better grades in the next 12 days than the guy behind you. You better have more film study on your iPad than the guy behind you. You're competing. If you want, you have to win the next 12 days if you have any hope of winning games the rest of the season. And that's an individual, granular level. You have to compete and win. And I'm saying, who showed up to the meeting earliest today? That's a gold star next to your name, Sione Fotu. You might be starting over Lander Barton this week. Lander, if you want to play, you better not miss a damn tackle for the next 12 days. Like, I'm making these guys compete because, Alonzo, it cannot get any worse than it is right now. It can't. Culturally, competitively, this team is broken. Now, I think it's a short-term issue. And it is a forgetfulness. And it is a, oh, man, we lost ourselves there for a second. Because the foundation is still there. The foundation is still what it has been for the last 20 years. But anything you've done that has deviated from that, I'm taking the damn truck keys away for the next 12 days.
You're walking everywhere. I don't care where you're going, you're walking.
And when you get there, you're going to hold the door open for everybody who's even within sight of you so they can walk into the building. And you're going to say, hello, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. If you have a bad attitude, if you're locker room lawyering right now, you're gone. This team, whatever it is, the poison in the blood, the cancer, whatever it is, has got to be rooted out in 12 days.
Did you think before the season started that the BYU game would be as important as it is now?
No.
And here we are.
I thought the BYU game was going to be a fun, festive return of the rivalry. It's a home game at Rice-Eccles Stadium. It's going to be insane. It's going to be loud. BYU, who I thought was going to be better than the projections, but I did not have any idea would be an undefeated top 10 team in the country. I was just like, this will be cool. This will be fun. This will feel like the old Mountain West Conference days. There will be conference championship implications. I got to admit, I thought it would be on the other side.
I don't think even the most ardent BYU fan would have said they'd be top 10 in the country, undefeated going into that game.
You know, the only person that I ran into over the offseason, I ran into like in the summertime, that gave me any inkling that they believe BYU could be this good, happens to be the guy calling their offensive plays.
Best say you're going to reference the homie A-Rod?
A-Rod is he's the only person I talk to. I am married into a BYU family, okay?
Right. It's deep.
I am around that culture plenty. I have friends. One of my best friends in the whole world played there, was an All-American at BYU. Shout out Jan Jorgensen and the New Mexico Lobos, where he's a staff member now under Bronco Mendenhall. Like, nobody. I know GA's on the staff down there. I know other coaches on the staff down there. Nobody except for A-Rod had this high of a verbal hope for BYU. But here we are. That's why you play the games. Oh, boy. All right. See what I've done to the clock because I just get so impassioned?
I need more coffee after that because it just hurts. Everything hurts.
You know what doesn't hurt, though?
What's that?
If the Utah football season has caused you weekend angst and now you got to get back to your actual daily activities and you got to make sure that your packages are shipped the right way, you got to make sure that photo album you're making for grandma of the Halloween costumes of the kids, you got to make sure that that's printed the right way, and you got to manage a mailbox. Our friends at PostNet are here to take the stress away from at least that portion of your life. You can worry about the Utes if you want to, but that portion of your life they are going to take care of. Set up a virtual mailbox. Go visit them in Draper, North Salt Lake, Spanish Fork, or West Valley, and ask them to, print that photo album. Ask them to make the big, gigantic sponsor banner for your kids' wrestling season that's coming up, or basketball season that's coming up, or volleyball season that's coming up. PostNet, dependable solutions on all of your printing, shipping, mail needs. Everything that you could possibly imagine that you need handled in that world, PostNet will take care of you. Tell them OC sent you. Opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show also always brought to you by alvarmani.com. So if the hair is thinning, and it probably is after the stress from a weekend like this one, alvarmani.com, your hair restoration experts. All right, I'm going to open up the text line. I've been dreading doing so. I'm going to read some of the tweets. We're going to get some of the things off your chest. Tell me if you think I'm an idiot. Tell me if you think I'm smart, whatever. 877-353-0700 on the Dish Pros text line. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. our very own Utah radio broadcast. That was the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, who will join us at some point on the show this week as well. Brant Kuithe had another phenomenal game. All right. I cannot imagine how frustrating it is for a guy who's got, he's got no lifeline. This is it for Brant Kuithe. All right. Now, I think Brant Kuithe is going to have an NFL career. So I guess he has that to look forward to. But imagine putting 7 years in to this Utah football program, all 7 of which have been a lot of fun, have been pretty successful, even in years where it didn't work out the way you ultimately wanted it to, right? Some heartbreaks in conference championship game losses, and then the bowl games that followed those, the team underperformed and things like that. But every year you had something to hang your hat on as being, hey, that was good. And then unfortunately for him, the injuries took him out of really the best years of Utah football that he was a part of. And this year was supposed to be the ride off into the sunset. And he's holding up his end of the bargain, and he's one of like 5 players on the entire team that are doing that.
Which is crazy when you think about this culture is all about max effort, all about next man up, all about all that. And then we kind of, you allude to that, and it's just, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Dude, you know what's crazy is as you were speaking there, I went through my head and I said, okay, how many of these players are holding up their end of the bargain truly for Utah football? How many of these guys are not just trying their hardest, but are actually like playing the way that we think and the coaching staff think that they are capable of playing? How many guys on this Utah football team are actually doing that on a consistent basis this year? And I think the answer is less than a half dozen. And I know that if you take into account injuries, like the guys that are doing that have actually been available in every single game, it's down to like 3.
That I don't like those numbers. Those numbers ain't good.
And Brant Kuithe is one of those guys who's been available consistently and is doing his thing. Oh, a little breaking news. Is that breaking news you're giving me there, Alonso?
It was announced a few minutes ago.
Okay.
On the internets.
Night game at Rice Eccles for the BYU game. 8:15 kickoff.
It's just kind of the
8:15 p.m.
8:15 p.m. Imagine again the clamoring for night games. They're getting the night games. That would have been, bro.
Don't do this.
Well, you kind of have to.
Don't talk about the what if.
You have to though. Because it's a kick to the head, but the reality is this. When you really sit back and look at it, with the expectations, if BYU's doing what they're doing right now, matched in with Utah's expectations, we're talking game day. We're talking biggest game in one of the biggest games in the country that weekend, and now sad face emoji.
Why can't we pick up somebody from the transfer portal at quarterback? That is your number one priority in the offseason, okay? But that we are not yet in the offseason.
No, you even hinted at it on the socials when you were talking about whoever the best G5 quarterback is. I dare even say go get that kid from UNLV. Like, dude, something. But that's an off-season conversation.
You talk about my guy Haj Malik, who started the season as a backup.
Yeah,
and then starter homeboy walked away over $150,000 of NIL money.
Allegedly.
Do we have to say allegedly in that case?
I think you do, because there's been some discourse publicly between athletics and
Thank you for protecting me from litigation. And how, Ted, insult to injury, I'd get slapped with like libel because of something I said about UNLV.
Right.
That would be really a mess.
Hey, that's my college degree paying off for something.
I appreciate that. Immensely. Your reactions here. Part of the reaction, and I knew I probably didn't want to do this. I put a poll question up. It's only been up for 1 hour. It's already got almost as many votes as our polls usually get for 24 hours. Utah's record in the final 4 games of the season will be blank. I decided to go with the realistic options here.
And what are those?
And I said 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, or 0-4. I did not put 4-0 as an option because I thought that would be insulting to the intelligence of the listener. based on what we've seen these last 4 weeks.
So when you put out that poll, I immediately thought to myself, Utah has the chance to do the funniest thing and go 4-0.
That would be great.
It would be great.
I would love to be dead wrong about this. It would be a miracle and an absolute coup of coaching if that could happen. If that happens, I'll say this. If Kyle Whittingham can resurrect this season and win the last 4 games and go 8-4, I don't care if you even accept a bowl bid, then you retire and you ride off into that like weird sunset.
I think we should do a wager. I think if they go 4-0, you unretire and you fight Francis Ngannou.
Okay, that's fine. Yes.
I know why it's fine for you. It's a high leverage situation for you.
That's great. There's a lot of money in that, even if my brain spills out of my ear. Okay.
But I mean, that's kind of like the way, realistically, when you look at it at the moment, like you kind of like have to put those sorts of things into perspective as like how ridiculous it would be if it happened.
So 3-1 is currently lowest in terms of percentage response. 2-2 has 16%. 3-1 is 10%. 2-2, 16%. 1-3 gets 32% of the votes ish. 0-4, which is the worst season under Kyle Whittingham ever.
Ever. That's the worst season ever.
He's never gone 4-8, right?
I don't think so. Trying to racking my brain with the stats I know.
That's in 5 and 7 years.
Yeah. Shout out to Dave Spatafor because we talked about this on Saturday. Yeah, I don't think there is a 4-8 in there. I'm pretty sure the first conference season was 5 and 7.
That people are getting real bothered. 0-4 as a potential 4-game finish. And look, it's not going to be easy. It is BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, UCF.
At Colorado, at UCF.
Yes.
That's tough.
Yes.
That's tough.
Iowa State and BYU are top 10 teams. You get them at home.
And they're for real.
And Colorado, by the way, after the Utah game, I was just like, do I want to watch Colorado?
You hate watching it, didn't you?
They're must-see television. Travis Hunter
is a bad dude.
Is the best football player that we've ever watched in college during my generation.
That backflip that he did when he celebrated that touchdown?
Bad idea. Shouldn't do that.
Shouldn't do it. But that just shows you how athletic that guy is.
Dude. By the way, remember, he was banged up in the last game.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, are you going to play him a bunch? Are you going to target him a bunch? He had like 150 yards.
Casually.
And a couple of pass breakups.
Yeah, just casual.
And just continues to be an absolute monster on the defense. It's ridiculous.
There's just some dudes that are built very different, and he's one of those dudes.
0-4 is considered the most realistic possibility over the final 4 games. I understand why fans are feeling that way right now. I still have some trust. Not some trust. I still have a lot of trust that this coaching staff is going to take a cold shower and wake up and figure something out. I understand why people feel a certain type of way about the job that everyone involved with the Utah football program has done this year. But you are at this point, you are allowed to have the expectations that you have because of the same guys that are in the building now. This program became one of the most respected and reliable programs in all of college football under the stewardship of the same individuals who are still running the program. My belief in them has not yet disappeared. Do I think that there's been a deviation from the norm? Very obviously, yes. Do I think that they forgot how to do it? No. Do I think that they've been too careful and a little too worried about who might get upset and want to go into the transfer portal? Yeah. Fear-based coaching, fear-based leadership, because it's not just coaches, it's also players that do this, right? It's also all the way up the department level, is not successful. All right?
So I was going to ask you before we go to break. The fear-based coaching, do you think that really is a factor in this case with just all, because that's the thing, right? It's a new weird time with the portal, NIL, all that stuff. Do you think that's really a factor here?
I think that there is something to look. I'll say this: I witnessed a player reacting a certain way to a disappointing loss. this season. I'm not going to tell you which game, but I watched a player reacting a certain type of way that in previous years would have got that guy either kicked off the team or sent to, the purgatory of weight room hell for a few weeks. Talented player, important player on the team, not among the most important players on the team, but a guy that you've seen a lot this year. I watched him react to what was a tough moment and a disappointing situation for everyone, like a 3-year-old baby, throwing a tantrum, having bad things in his mouth about coaches on the staff, all of this, okay? Now, in years past, that guy would have been rolling, running, carrying tires, flipping tires, doing weights, till he puked. And we probably would not have seen him in the starting lineup the next week. He was on the field for the first snaps in a position group that is not particularly decimated by injury. All right? So I think that there's a bit of a disconnect between what got Utah to this point and the way things are being done this year. Now, that's what I'm referencing when I say fear-based decision-making. Fear-based coaching is icky, and it suggests something stronger than what I'm actually trying to get at here. But I just think that there were ass kickers at every level of this program in the last 20 years. And by the way, it wouldn't just have to be a coach that told that guy to shut up. That situation I'm referencing, in the past, it wouldn't have had to be a coach or a GA or somebody wearing a polo shirt that took that guy aside and wrangled him. Hey, shh, let's not do this. That is something that in previous years would have, should have, and was regulated by players on the team. And I think that's the right way. All right. Got to take a break here. Hot lunch is next. You want a spoiler alert on what we're going to talk about in the hot lunch?
Please.
Utah football. It's ESPN 700. Jonnu Hall with an interception. Again, highlight courtesy of our own Utah radio broadcast. Jonnu Hall, by the way, going to be a hell of a player if you can get him to stay. He as a linebacker he's awesome. And this is a staff that projected eventually that would be the position that he would probably excel at. He's got a chance to be a really, really good one at the University of Utah. Dallas Vakalahi, who was pressed into action all game against Houston because of the lack of depth, the injuries, the decimation of that defensive tackle room, and your big-time leaders, your seniors, your upperclassmen were out. No Tanuvasa, no Junior Tafuna. Dallas Vakalahi was admirable. Again, a freshman defensive tackle, that is a tough job. That's a really rough position to play as a freshman. You're not yet in your big boy body most of the time. So good for him. There's a couple bright spots for you, all you Utah fans out there. I'm trying to filter through these tweets that I'm getting, and I'm trying to find one that is not super depressing to read on the reactions as we look at the hot lunch. We'll get there in just a second. We're joined now by one of the great partners here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Farmer and Chemist have been really kind to us and to our listeners. And Doug Burgoyne from Farmer and Chemist, one of the brains behind the operation, is kind enough to join us now. Hey, Doug, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Nice to be with you today, as always.
So I had I'm hoping that Shadow, who is a 11-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog, comes down to Farmer and Chemist. My neighbor walked by with this gigantic fluff ball of a senior dog the other day, and going about as slow as you would expect, right? And dealing with the soreness and probably some hips and some knees and things like that. It happens to dogs just like it happens to us. And I said, hey, you got to get Shadow on some of this Farmer and Chemist stuff. They have chews and they have like bacon flavored tinctures for dogs, and the neighbor couldn't believe it. So hopefully they come down, and hopefully Shadow says that OC sent him in there. But I wanted to use that as an opportunity. You guys do have a bunch of canine products that work for your pets.
Absolutely. Thanks for recommending it. It's really amazing. So you said it just right. Animals have the same ailments that we have when it comes to arthritis, joint pain, especially as they get older. They also get anxious around people, holidays, loud fireworks, lots of groups. And so we formulated two products that we think are really amazing for dogs specifically, but they also work for other animals. And you said it, they're bacon flavored. So who doesn't love that anyway? I mean, I'm tempted myself. So we have tinctures, steady-going tinctures or rough days tinctures that are just for dogs. They taste like bacon, and you can use that with a larger animal. It's super easy. Just put a few drops in the food that they like. It enhances their taste with the bacon flavor. And within about 20 to 30 minutes, they're starting to feel some of that relief. They're more active. They're able to walk better, jump up into the car, go up the stairs. And then there's also the chews, and chews are amazing. They're all beef. They're locally produced, and they also taste apparently fabulous. Haven't tried one myself, but the dogs really love them, and they work really, really well.
And look, when you're getting product for your dog, check the same things out for yourself. The tinctures for humans, unfortunately, do not come in bacon flavor, but you got orange, you got mint, and the steady going tinctures for people are taking care of some of those same issues.
Yeah, in fact, we use the same process for humans and animals. The only difference is the flavor. So technically, you could try the bacon flavored tincture. It's the same dosage or the same concentration as the adult, just a different dosage. So, but if you're not into bacon flavored tincture, then we do have Minty Me, and we've got a great orange. And those, for humans, they come with a little CBG for inflammation or CBN for relaxation and sleep. We don't put those in the dog formulations because they just don't need it. The CBD works great. So there's a little bit of a difference, but come in to the store, chat with our experienced team, and they'll help you find the right product for your pet or for yourself.
And a discount for ESPN 700 listeners.
Absolutely. Whether online using promo code ESPN 700 or coming into the store, mention that you heard the ad on the radio, 20% off all of our products for you. And we'd love for folks to come into 7719 South Main Street in historic Midvale or online at farmerandchemist.com.
Doug, thanks for your time as always.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Shout out to Doug and to Shadow. Man, I love a big dog and a senior dog. They're just the sweetest, aren't they?
They're the best.
You get those old dogs that are just kind of shuffling along. They've seen it all. They've done it all. They're great.
Except their breath. The breath is the only complaint. Having a couple senior dogs at the house.
You know what? Get him the bacon breath. That's the rough days.
I may try one for myself. That's
you know
he had me sold the second that he said bacon flavored.
And the soft chews for dogs, they're just beef jerky basically.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, I mean, why not?
What's it going to do? Make him just more chill?
I had a policy when my dog was still around that I would not make him eat things if I would not try it myself. So I'd even his dog food, I'd grab a couple and just be like, how disgusting is this stuff? So in order to keep with my own policy, I would have to try the Rough Days beef flavored chew.
Can't wait to see you sleeping it off.
I don't have a dog anymore.
Well, when you get the new dog, I know that's in the works.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
We've talked about it here.
It's going to be a wild post-Christmas life at the O'Connell household.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be pandemonium.
3 kids, 5 and under, and a puppy.
It's going to be pee everywhere, and you just won't know whose pee it is the problem.
The nice thing it's going to make, for me, I'll just be like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll go out in the yard.
Play it off.
It'd be great. Big thanks to Doug from Farmer and Chemist. The Hot Lunch this week brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above. What are we feeling today? Sub in a tub. I'm trying to get back on the old like fewer carb train.
Bro, this is the worst time to do that, right before the holidays?
That's why you need to do it.
See, tamale season is upon us.
Yeah, no. Look, you need to, when you're not having a holiday meal, that's the right time for you to get on board with all right, I'm going to eat healthier. Like my work lunch, we're here at ESPN 700. There's nothing festive going on. That's when you got to be going sub in a tub, a healthy option. Go with maybe a salad even, because you're definitely going to make up for it calorie-wise with the trick-or-treating, with the eventual holiday parties.
What sub in a tub are you going with?
Man, I've been really on the club sandwich and Italian lately. I had a lot of salami this weekend, so I'm probably just going to classic club sub in a tub.
Why did you have a lot of salami this weekend?
Because I love any charcuterie, anything that even resembles charcuterie, and that was available to me this weekend. So,
okay, fair.
Turkey
Turkey and provolone sounds pretty good in a sub in a tub, right?
Ooh. All right, we're going to grab some Jersey Mike's. Big thanks to them for sponsoring the Hot Lunch. Scott Mitchell, Utah football legend, joins us next. We'll see what kind of answers he has for what the bleep is wrong with your Utes on ESPN 700. On that broadcast, Scott Mitchell joins us every Monday to recap the weekend that was. Unfortunately, the last 4 weeks have not been all that fun to talk about, and here we are, Utah 4-4, 1-4 in conference, and they lost to the lowly Houston Cougars on the road. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I mean, it's a tough time with what's happening up on the hill there, but life goes on, and you got to figure out how to be the solution as opposed to the problem. Clearly, there's a problem, and so look positive, look to figure it out, because the people who can make it happen and change it are the ones who are in that building. And if you look at the film, it will give you the answer to actually what the problems are.
All right, and I know you've done that. So what are the problems?
Well, it's not the defense. I mean, these guys are undermanned last week, and they played phenomenal. Played really good, quite frankly. I mean, there's still some things that happen, some missed tackles. There's some aggressive play at the linebacker position that I think is typically not like that. It's atypical of what normally happens. Just kind of how some guys are fitting into their gaps and their responsibilities, but a pretty decent effort, certainly an effort that should win a game for you. But it's really on the offensive side, and what it is, it's across the board. It's not, it's the quarterback, it's not this, it's not that, it's not the coordinator. It's there's something going on inside these players mentally where they're not preparing themselves, and they're not performing in the game like they should. And here's the example. There's an offsides by offensive linemen. You just shouldn't have offside penalties. There's guys that are dropping the passes. There's inaccurate throws from the quarterback. There's guys that aren't coming back to the football. There's all these really small details that make all the difference in the world, and you see it across the board. You see guys not staying engaged in blocks. You see guys missing assignments and missing blocks. And what that is, it's a lack of focus. It's a lack of a willingness to pay attention to those small details, to those fundamental things that are critical to the success of a team. My first year in the NFL, my very first practice, Coach Shula has us do form tackling drills. And he goes, as quarterbacks. So the quarterbacks actually tackled each other just like Little League football. And he said, look, this game is about who blocks better and who tackles better. And it's not anything more than that. But what it really is, it's about who does those fundamental necessary things on a regular basis. And so when I see this across the board, and I just keep seeing it over and over, and I keep saying it, guys got to come back to the football. You got to have a better location. Got to have location on those third downs. You can't throw the ball like that. These guys, and I see all of these fundamental things happening over and over with a collective group. It tells me that these guys are not focusing, and they're not, whether they're coached to do this, I don't know. I'm not there. I'm just seeing what I see on the film. But there has to be a willingness to do those things every day. It's like the cardinal rule of playing football. These are the absolutes. You cannot get away from them. You have to do them, and if you don't, you're going to ultimately lose, which is what you're seeing. So when you want these guys to go on a tough drive down the field, their minds aren't focused enough to even do that. Somebody's going to screw it up along the way. And it's all about that willingness to focus and do the preparation every week by every single player on that offense.
I spent half an hour at the top of the show just talking about wishing I had the answer, knowing okay, if we've identified these problems, how do you fix the problems? You have 12 days to do it, Scott, before an undefeated BYU team rolls into Rice-Eccles Stadium. And if the season is not already completely lost, you get beat up by your rival at home.
You can just see that there's this, whether they're trying too hard, whether they're frustrated, whether there's not a cohesion there. I don't know what all of it is, but I do know that those are probably things that are going on. And when you start getting out of your focus and you start just not taking care of your business, then these things just escalate and they're problems. So what you're doing is the problem, you are also the solution, and it's focusing. To me, when you get out of sync, it's always about focusing back on those fundamental things. And there's a lot of fundamental things that I'm not seeing with a lot of these players. And it's not just one position group; it's across the board. So the thing that I don't know young people realize, every game is so precious. The opportunity to play is so precious. And when you're in the thick of all of it and you feel like you're a pretty important person, you think it's going to last forever. I mean, there's only so many opportunities. There are very few opportunities for you to really go out and play. And it's such an amazing privilege that these players have. And I don't think maybe they realize how wonderful and what a special gift this is. And to relish it, to enjoy it, like nobody's having any fun right now. This is football. It's not like we're trying to solve world peace here. Go out and enjoy this game and celebrate it, but also respect it. There's this, not everyone gets to do this. A lot of people would love to be able to do this right now, and it's a great game. It's a great game for so many reasons. And one of which is you really find out a lot about yourself. We all go through tough things in life. We go through tough moments, and it's how you respond to it. It's how you handle it. It's how you deal with those things. That's who you become. And some of my proudest moments as an athlete came from the most painful and difficult situations I got in sports. And it was the way in which you handle it. 1995, we started 0-3, and it could have gone south in a hurry. And we just banded together. We focused on those fundamental things. We looked at who we were and what our strengths were, and we went on to have a record-setting year and made the playoffs. And we were the third team in the whole entire history of the NFL and playoffs that had made the team after starting 0-3. So yeah, you can get out of these tough times. And I love them, quite frankly, because I like to see people figure it out. I like to see people find answers and give a better effort and not be beaten by the fact you've lost a couple of football games.
I want to run through a wall for you right now, Scott Mitchell, because look, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is where you find out who you really are, and I'm sure players on this team will look back on this as an important moment, not only in their football career, but probably in their life, based on how they react to this moving forward. So you're right. It's much bigger than I think we give credit for, and the game of football otherwise is much smaller than we often think about, as it's such a huge part of our job. But you're right. There's absolutely bigger fish to fry in the world. And, I'll say this. The team that I felt like we've known things about Utah football that are constants, that are like, you can always rely on this team to be pretty disciplined, most of the time penalty free. They're going to be hard working, even if the other team's more athletic. Utah's going to be more physical. There's a Utah culture that has existed even in years before Pac-12 championship years, right? That you just could rely on, and this team seems to have, strayed from it a little bit. It's probably unfair to say they've lost it completely, but strayed from it a little bit. Is that something you can reestablish in practice?
Well, I agree with you that there's kind of been this loss of culture. And, I think of some of those championship years in the Pac-12, like losing to Oregon State, and you just go, there's no way we should have lost to Oregon State. And I see those games and I see the rebound. The guys answered back and that it wasn't acceptable. And I just haven't seen that sense of urgency, that sense of fight, that sense of next man up mentality. I don't know what it all is. You hear things, you hear that, maybe there's a softness because of NIL. I don't know. I mean, it certainly, money's a funny thing, and I saw that in the NFL. Some guys responded to it very well, and some guys didn't. But it was something that was you had to manage, and you had to deal with, and you had to try to not let that deter your team and the chemistry that you had. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard, this culture, to get it back. But let me tell you what concerns me, maybe as much, if not more. This is the first time this rivalry between BYU and Utah has mattered for a long time. Even when Utah was in the Pac-12, I'm not sure that it meant as much to them. And here is a golden opportunity for this rivalry to be as intense as it possibly could be. And I'm not sure the players at the University of Utah understand it. They haven't really felt this rivalry. They don't really know what it really is. And if you don't get a sense of that, and it doesn't mean anything to you, then it could be a really ugly game. Now it could be the genesis of okay, oh, now we get it, after you get your butt kicked. But I'm not sure aside from culture that this team even really gets the importance and the significance of this BYU rivalry, because they haven't grown up with it. They haven't been in the program to really understand what it really means.
That's going to be interesting. I hadn't thought about that before, Scott, but it's going to be interesting to see, how this team embraces and comes out with the idea that this game is bigger than all the other games. Because that's another thing that you tried to do as a coaching staff for so long, is you try to treat all the games like, prepare every week the same way and execute the same week the same way every single week. Well, this game, the magnitude, because you've lost an opportunity to compete for a conference championship, this game is your season in a lot of ways.
It is, and so you think about, okay, coming back home, you're playing Arizona. It's an important conference game. It's dark mode. It's homecoming. It's all of these, incredible things that should get you really fired up and motivated. And that team wasn't motivated for that game. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to magically all of a sudden be motivated for this BYU game. Now, in rivalry years, a lot of times a team that, BYU, I'm sure, favored in this game, and they should be favored, but a lot of times that can go out the window, and all things are thrown out the window with rivalry games. I really hope it's that catalyst. It's that maybe silver lining in a very terrible season, that you could somehow find a way to get some momentum going into the end of the season and beat your rival. I mean, that is certainly valuable and certainly something to work towards. I hope this team, and really it's the offensive side of the ball, and it's not at every position group, but I hope these guys find some fight in them. Find some, we're not, this is unacceptable. This is we can do better than this. And so I hope, that the rivalry game will bring it out.
Scott Mitchell's our guest for another couple minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. He's a Utah football legend, one of the great quarterbacks in the history of this program. And you saw Isaac Wilson with some of the similar struggles, and the decision was made to bench him and see what Brandon Rose had. Now, his team didn't help him out a ton, a couple drops when he came in, but it was kind of more of the same, really, with Brandon Rose in there. How do you handle the quarterback position in the bye week during practice and, of course, against BYU?
I saw a lot of really good things from Brandon Rose, a lot of really good things, balls thrown on time, accurately, with confidence. The biggest thing I loved about him playing in the game was he's decisive. If he was going to move in the pocket, if he was going to run, he was quick, decisive about everything that he was doing. And, he had some – he did not throw the ball poorly. And the interception was a tremendous athletic play by the safety in the secondary, and that's one of those plays that receivers got to keep working back to you. At least at the worst case scenario, the receivers got to go, okay, I'm going to knock this down. And he, Brandon Rose just trying to make a play in that situation. And I wasn't like, oh, that was a dumb play. Why'd you throw it right there? It was it was actually not a bad play, but his ability to throw the ball and do it very decisively really stood out to me. And as I've watched this year and watched these quarterbacks warm up, and I've watched it very intently, he's got the best arm of all the quarterbacks they have there. And he can really throw the football. And it just feels like Isaac is real tentative still, and he's just not quite sure of himself as to what he's doing. And for whatever reason, and it's, whether he's just afraid to make a mistake now, and that certainly could be the case, as opposed to Brandon Rose looks like, he's a guy that could really spark your offense and really get it going. And I'd like to see more of what Brandon Rose is. He's been in the program. He knows the system. He's certainly got some talent. People are kind of like, well, I'm not sure how sharp he is, and really understanding the game, but looked pretty sharp to me in the game. But you got to do something. You have to do something different than what you're doing, and it may be a good solution, and it may be a good thing for Isaac to sit. And I'm certainly not anti-Isaac Wilson. I think he's got tremendous talent, but there's a level of just confidence and maturity that you get as you get older, and he's a true freshman, and he's been put in a kind of a tough situation, and it might be better for him to take a back seat for a minute and just let's see what Brandon Rose can do.
We'll see what decisions are made, and obviously we'll be holding our breath for the next 12-ish days as Utah tries to right the ship ahead of the Holy War rivalry when BYU comes into Rice-Eccles Stadium. Scott Mitchell will be joining us again this week and then next week as we talk about it and get you ready. So great stuff from Scott, as always. Appreciate you, sir.
Likewise. Thanks, John.
Scott Mitchell. So cast one vote for Brandon Rose, it looks like.
One vote. Sometimes it's all you need is just a vote, though. I mean, he was trying. Like, you can't say that he wasn't, out there having the same struggles. He was trying to move the ball around.
It's hard for a quarterback to look good when nothing else is looking good. And that's where Utah got a little bit spoiled, not a little bit spoiled, a lot spoiled, because you had a guy in Cam Rising who developed into someone who you could count on to erase mistakes. Now, when he made his own mistakes, also, there was a ton of confidence that that won't happen again, right?
Yeah.
Cam Rising would have a bad game, or he would, throw an interception at Florida, and his teammates would be like, that was a fluke. We all make mistakes. It's fine. And I don't think that's the attitude when these other quarterbacks are making mistakes right now.
That's
and
fair.
It needs to be. It needs to be the attitude when the quarterback make mistakes, because everybody on this team is making multiple mistakes a game. So it's unfair to look at even the freshman quarterback and be like, oh, here we go again, another interception by him. It's just like, yeah, dude, another interception by him. And I watched you get beat on that block 6 times in this game, all right? So look at your own self. Anyway, that conversation with Scott Mitchell brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet in Murray. Get Chevy ready this month with better than employee pricing, Solitude season passes with every new vehicle purchase. It's online at LarryHMillerChevrolet.com. Big 12 at noon is also brought to you by Mountain Land Supply. Visit them at mountainlandsupply.com. All right, we're going to look at the landscape of college football around the country. Josh Newman, our old friend, who's now covering Texas. Texas is they're an interesting team right now. We'll talk about it all on the national level with Josh. It's ESPN 700.
touchdown. Somehow Pavia threads the needle.
Tom, watch the angle on this pass. Cedric Alexander goes physical, blocked right away. I don't know how he fits that football in right there, but Pavia finds a way to thread multiple needles. What a catch by Junior Sherrill.
Highlight courtesy of the SEC Network. For all of his strong efforts at Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia not able to lead his team to a win over Texas. Longhorns escape 27-24 with a victory. Our next guest has been covering those Longhorns closely. We're going to talk about Texas and, of course, the national landscape of college football with Josh Newman, who joins us on a Monday. Josh, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Appreciate you having me, OC.
All right, so before we get into anything national, you have the benefit of having been around this Utah program, but also now being away from this Utah program and having a more high-altitude view on whatever is happening here in Salt Lake City. Sometimes we're a little too close to it. I don't know if you've got answers, but what would your number one question be for this team as to why the hell it's been 4 in a row?
I love how you think that now that I'm gone, I will have answers. I didn't have any answers when I was covering them, so let's not get crazy here. Look, it's been a mess. You know, you open the season with, you know, a lot of expectations and a lot of optimism, right, with Cam Rising coming back healthy. You know, he gets hurt during the Baylor game, and he's out, and then that turns into a thing, just like last year was, right? Like last year with the knee, right, that turned into a season-long thing, and now this thing with the hand. You know, I thought that just, again, being on the outside now, just watching, I really thought that after they beat Oklahoma State, even if Rising was going to be out long-term, right, you had Isaac Wilson in there. They figured out a way to beat Oklahoma State. And at the time, I think a lot of people thought that, okay, Utah was able to beat that team on the road in Stillwater. You thought that that was going to be their toughest opponent. And they figured it out. And I'll say, personally, I thought that, okay, if you can beat Oklahoma State without Rising, you can figure out the rest of it. And that clearly did not come to fruition, right? It was an ugly loss against Arizona, and, you know, Rising comes back against Arizona State. He gets hurt again. They drop that game. At that point, the season is sort of essentially in the can in terms of what it could be, right? Winning the Big 12, getting to the college football playoff. They lose again. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, right? Andy Ludwig, I know they called it a resignation. Fine. He resigns. Interim offensive coordinator. It's still a true freshman quarterback. And I was watching a little bit of the game the other night as I was writing at Vanderbilt, and I saw that Wilson got hurt. He comes back in. Brandon Rose, Wilson, back and forth. And here's a question, right? Have they broken Isaac Wilson already? Because just from my vantage point, sort of semi-watching, it doesn't feel like that is moving in a positive direction. So that's sort of my prevailing notion. Like if you thought 2 months ago that Isaac Wilson was the guy for the future, do you still think that, and have they broken him already? Okay, because what I've seen lately, it doesn't seem to be trending in a positive direction for Isaac Wilson.
It's not trending in a positive direction. I don't know if you wanted me to answer the question or not, but I'm going to. I think you haven't broken him yet, but you're right. It's something that you need to pay attention to as this whole experiment, whatever it looks like, moves forward. I think that Isaac, on the personal and family level, I think a lot of what is going to go on with him is informed by what happened with his brother in the NFL. So I actually think there's more patience with Isaac and his family to, you don't have to start him in order for him to not leave in the transfer portal. I think it's better if you protect him and you allow him to build confidence and you allow him to, feel like he's the guy moving forward, even that if that means sit down for a little while. You're the long-term answer, but we want to make sure you're 100% healthy or whatever. It's a delicate balance, but I don't think it's as delicate of a balance as it's being treated as right now, if that makes sense.
And I will also say, and I understand that fans are going to be fans, and fans are emotional. I understand all that. I really do think that people back there sort of need to, like, take a breath. And again, fans are going to fan, but if you could just, like, step back, take a breath, like, you need to remember a few things here. One, he's an 18-year-old true freshman. That's one. So he is learning college football. He is learning, a college offense and the nuances. He is learning everything that he has to do sort of on the fly now. And two, he is not supposed to be in this position, okay? If, all things being equal, if Rising were healthy, this would be Rising's offense, and we wouldn't even be thinking about Isaac Wilson unless Utah was up by 4 scores. So that's the other thing. So whatever you thought that this season, was or is or should have been, Isaac Wilson is not supposed to be in this position right now. And I know I just said about, Oklahoma State, and they won that game, and they were 4-0, and maybe you could have figured things out. He's not supposed to be in this position. So people getting, like, super mad and everybody wanting to, shoot Andy Ludwig, like, into the sun and get that figured out. Nothing has gone according to plan here. I really think people need to take a step back and just remember that nothing going on here is supposed to be happening right now.
Well, that is, I think, if there's any reassurance for Utah fans, that is a theme that has kind of progressed across college football for some programs. Florida State's having an even worse season. Oklahoma State is having an even worse season. Expectations, we think we know so much before a season kicks off, and then something like this happens with Utah and with some of those other teams. You're like, we actually didn't know anything. But, on the flip side of that, are teams that we had high hopes for that are playing really well. You're covering one of those teams right now. Texas is a really good team right now. Oregon came in with some high hopes. They're the number 1 team in the country right now. So as you look at the entire landscape of college football, are you more surprised by some of those disaster years, and we have to call Utah's season so far as one of those, or maybe some of the folks that have made their appearances in the top 25 are maybe doing better than what you thought?
Yeah, you know what? It's you asked me that question. My knee-jerk reaction is like it's a little bit of both. I think it's a lot of fun, as you alluded to, OC, that some of the teams in the top 25 that maybe we didn't project to be there, or teams that are in the mix for the college football playoff that we didn't project to be there. Look, Army is undefeated. They're in the top 25. I don't think they'll get that Group of 5 bid to the playoff, but look, they're in the mix right now. They can certainly win the American. SMU is having a really good season in the American. Boise State has, they have the inside track, Boise State, to get that Group of 5 bid to the playoff. Ashton Genty might win the Heisman. I think he's clearly the best running back in the country. So things that we didn't think were going to happen are happening, and it's been a lot of fun. Good teams, like top-end teams, sort of, I guess, performing as we expected. I don't know that we thought that Oregon would be number 1 in the AP poll in late October. I don't know that we thought that Oregon could beat Ohio State. That's happening. I think a lot of us, myself included, I think a lot of us wrote off Georgia in terms of the national picture after they lost to Alabama. But then Georgia walks into Texas, and Georgia completely outclassed a Texas team that could win the national championship. That's one of the the hardest hitting, more physical defenses I've seen live ever. Okay, so Georgia's demise was a bit exaggerated, and I think the most interesting part to me nationally is that when you were looking at the landscape in like June, July, August, preseason stuff, right? You're looking at the different conferences. Well, what's it going to take to get to a 12-team playoff? And you sort of thought that 1 loss, 2 loss, maybe even a 3-loss team, even a 4-loss SEC team with a viable resume could maybe sneak into the 12-team playoff. And we're into late October, and that's not what's going to take place. I don't think you're going to get a 3-loss team. You're certainly not getting a 4-loss team. But I don't think you're getting a 3-loss team into the playoff. I think what you're going to have is I really think there's going to be a handful of like 10-2, right? Like 2-loss Power 4 teams that are going to get left out. That's how jumbled and like boggled things are right now, is that you're going to have really good, accomplished 10-2 power conference teams that don't get to their conference championship game and are looking for an at-large bid. You're going to have really good 10-2 teams getting left out. That, to me, right now, as we still have 4 or 5 weeks to go in the regular season, that's the most interesting thing to me, is that really, really good teams are going to get left out of this thing.
Let's say that there's a team who has a clear quarterback issue heading into next year. Is the best way to solve those issues just money? Is that how college football is now?
I think, how do I put this? I think money can solve some problems. I don't know that money can solve your quarterback problem. And, we can bring up DJU at Florida State, and quarterback is a very, as you know, quarterback is a difficult position to play. And it becomes more difficult when you are changing programs, changing philosophies, changing staffs, changing offensive coordinators, trying to walk into a new place, and you have 7 months, 8 months to get onboarded in an attempt to start for a new program. So money can solve some problems, but what I am finding out, just personally my experience, what I am finding out at Texas is money cannot solve all of your problems. It can solve some problems. Like, just for example, the wide receiver core at Texas is completely new. All of last year's guys went to the NFL. The room was empty, so they opened up their purse strings, and they got a bunch of new guys. Wide receiver is one thing. I think the quarterback situation would be very difficult to fix on the fly. I think we're seeing, not just at Texas, but nationally, money cannot solve all of your problems on the offensive line. If you're in need of one guy on the line, maybe two guys on the line, you need to plug a couple of holes. NIL can solve that problem. You cannot buy your entire offensive line or your defensive line through NIL. So I think the road, generally speaking, I think the contenders, the real contenders, you're still doing most of your recruiting. The vast majority of your roster building is still through the high school ranks, and building your culture and having guys in there 2, 3, 4 years. And if you need to plug a hole here, plug a hole there, that's what the NIL does. That's what the Georgias and the Texases and the Oregons and the Ohio States are really doing. You're not completely roster building by paying guys, but you can plug holes, certain spaces, plug holes by paying guys.
Last thing before I let you go, the answer will be revised, I'm sure, the next time we have a conversation. But who's going to win the national championship as we get a little bit closer to that college football playoff?
It's tough, man. There's still so much football left. Again, I saw Georgia live. Georgia's defense is ferocious. The real viable national title contenders, just off the top of my head, Oregon can win the national title. Texas can win the national title. I have questions, but they can win the national title. Man, I don't know. Texas A&M is a little scary. I don't think they're a real title contender. I don't know, man. If Georgia has enough offense, sitting here on October 28th, I would probably say Georgia's going to win the national championship. But there's just so much time left, and there was an interesting conversation here at Texas. I mean, Texas is 8 games into the season. If you are going to just play for the national championship, you're only halfway through the season. You've got 8, maybe 9 games left. It's crazy, right? You could be playing 17 games. So, look, if you're 8 games in, you want to be playing for the whole thing. You're playing potentially 16 or 17 games. You need to be worried about your depth and your younger guys and just making sure that everybody's healthy. So, very interesting times here in college football. It's kudos to whoever does win this thing, because these are unprecedented times. Again, playing 16, 17 games. And if you're going to win the whole thing, not only are you playing maybe 17, but that means you have to be healthy all the way through January. So, going to be really, really interested to see how it all plays out.
Appreciate your time. We're just going to we're going to keep coming up with excuses to have you on the show. So thanks for being willing.
Anytime. Thanks, OC.
You know him. You love him. Chances are you probably miss him. Josh Newman, for a little national perspective on college football. We'll count him as our Big 12 insider today, because we did have a little conversation about Oklahoma State as well.
We did.
Big 12 insiders are brought to you by Larry H. Miller Ford in Draper, the Ford King. All right, I asked him that national championship question because right now the number 1 team in the country is Oregon. Only one person decided not to make Oregon their number 1 team in the country. We'll talk about who that was, and a realistic scenario where Oregon could finish the season undefeated and still not play for the Big Ten championship. That's a possibility. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Jason Kreis going to join us at 1 o'clock. Real Salt Lake starts a playoff with Minnesota coming up. What is that? 4 days from now? 5 days from now?
No, it's I believe game 1 is tomorrow.
What?
Let me double check. I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow though.
Copy here says starts on November 2nd at America First Field. But you know what?
Let me double check and make sure I didn't lie to you. If so, that's a flag on me.
Either way, we're going to talk with Jason Christ. We'll just wait, and he can tell us when they actually start this thing. The funniest possible thing could happen in an expanded college football playoff year. So right now, Oregon is the number 1 team in the country. Do you know the one AP voter that did not put Oregon in that number 1 spot? Only one person.
One person. Who's the most hateful Oregon person I know? I'm going to just say it was Josh Furlong.
It was John Wilner.
Oh, okay.
John Wilner's the only person who was just like, nah, screw the Ducks. So that's funny. And I did not know this was a possibility until yesterday when I was doing a little research for the show. It is a possibility because of how the tiebreakers could potentially work and how things are going right now in the Big Ten Conference. There is a possibility, Alonzo, that the University of Oregon can finish their regular season undefeated and still not be invited to play in the Big Ten championship game.
The conniption that Jeff Schwartz would have would be cataclysmic.
It's fun. I phrased that wrong. You don't get invited to play in a championship game, in a conference championship game. You clinch an opportunity to play in that conference championship game. So right now, Indiana is 8-0. All right, they're ranked number 13 in the country. They've got Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. They'll be favored in 3 of those 4. They'll be underdogs on the road at the Horseshoe when they take on Ohio State. All right, so Indiana right now undefeated in the season, undefeated in Big Ten play. All right, Penn State also undefeated in their season, undefeated in Big Ten play. They've got Ohio State, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland. You'll notice that Indiana and Oregon are not on that list.
Oh, boy.
All right? And Oregon finishes their season with Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and then Washington. All right? So, however unlikely, it is possible that all 3 of these teams finish undefeated in the season and in Big Ten play. Now, if that happens, the tiebreakers go down to like, all right, well, what's your overall record? Your Big Ten record is this. What's your overall record? All right, you're undefeated as an overall record. All right. You get down far enough in the tiebreakers, and it's not all that far down, and it becomes strength of schedule effectively. How good were your other Big Ten opponents? What is the record of your other Big Ten opponents? And right now, Oregon would be in the Big Ten championship game if their remaining opponents, which are, again, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington, continue at the clip that they are at right now. Oregon would finish undefeated, and they would be in. There is a possibility, though, that if Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington have bad finishes to their season and Oregon, Indiana, and Penn State finish undefeated, that Indiana would have the stronger strength of schedule against conference opponents, and it would be Penn State, Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. And, of course, Oregon still gets into an expanded college football playoff, but they then become the 5th seed. And they would play the Big 12 champion, most likely. They would play the group of 5 team, right? They'd play the 12. So whoever that's going to be, Army or Boise State or whomever, right? And then they would most likely, in a current scenario, they would play the eventual Big 12 champion. So Oregon it is possible, and not just mathematically so, but like actually feasible, that Oregon could be the number 1 undefeated team in the country and still not play in the Big Ten championship game.
But they'd be the number 1 team in the country. In my opinion, I mean,
that feels wrong, doesn't it?
That feels dirty.
And by the way, if that happens, they would have to play an extra game. Now, there are a bunch of people who've been talking about this online, Oregon fans. There are some people who think that being that 5 seed is actually the easiest path through the college football playoff, because of the disrespect to the Big 12 Conference.
Better
Because,
say yeah.
because that's who you end up playing, is the Big 12 champion. So right now that would be, I guess feasibly, that would be Iowa State. That would be BYU. That would be, I guess, Colorado potentially. And so there are people who think that it's actually easier to play one extra game against the Big 12 champion than to have to play as, play the quarterfinal against one of the teams that won in week 1 of the college football playoff, presumably like a 2-loss SEC team, another 2-loss Big Ten team. So it's going to get convoluted if everyone keeps winning, is what I'm saying.
I just want chaos, if I'm honest with you. I just want complete and utter chaos, because why not? Why not?
Also, if you are so dead wrong if you think it's better for Oregon or whoever else, because this could be the same thing could play out where an undefeated Indiana makes the college football playoff but is not invited to play in the Big Ten championship game. Same thing for Penn State. Again, if they all finish undefeated, one of them is the odd man out, right? You are up in the night if you think that it's easier to go through an extra game in the college football. Josh Newman just talked about the fact that you could be talking about 17 games this year.
You want these kids to play 18 games? They went from 12, 13 games max to 17.
You're not. It makes absolutely no sense that you would want to play that extra game. That bye week ahead of the college football playoff
is everything.
Quarterfinal would be so good for whoever that is.
100%.
So I don't think that those 3 teams are going to finish undefeated, all of them. But if they do, real possibility. Oh, what's that?
I got a flag on myself. Apologies to our friends at Real Salt Lake. The first playoff game is tomorrow at 6:50 p.m. at America First Field. That's on me.
Well, we're going to talk with Jason Kreis about that.
Yeah, I still have to apologize to them.
He's going to join us in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. Hey. Time to talk a little RSL here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Joining us to give us some insight on a playoff run, Jason Kreis, club legend, director of operations and special projects at Real Salt Lake. Jason, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
How do you divide your time percentage-wise between operations and special projects? Which of those is taking up more of your time?
That's a very good question. I don't actually think either one of those are what I do here, but there is some dividing of time between Academy, the Monarchs, and the first team. So, yeah, there's some division happening.
I'm gonna campaign with everyone over there to see if I can get a special project that actually comes across your desk. That's my new goal I'll probably leave it for next season.
That sounds good. Thank you very much. I have something to look forward to now.
All right, Minnesota at America First Field, playoff series, first team to 2 wins advances. Where is Minnesota most dangerous?
Minnesota's caused us some problems just a couple of weeks ago. We had them in our stadium, and they were a very well-oiled defensive machine that really cut down our chances on goal. And they counterattack extremely well as well. So it's a team that's really almost counter to what we're trying to do, and proved to be a very difficult opponent. They've actually won 7 of their last 8 or 9 games of the season. So it is going to prove to be a quite difficult challenge for us.
So that adage of playing the right kind of soccer at the right time, does it apply to this Minnesota team in your mind?
It looks like it, yeah. I mean, I think that they are arguably probably the most informed team since Leagues Cup, since our break in August. They have probably had more wins than anybody else. So it's definitely a strong opponent. And similar to the 2009 team that I coached, we caught a really good streak at the end and rolled that right through the playoffs and all the way to an MLS Cup.
So because you've been through that on the positive end, you should know how to interrupt that, right? So, like, what's the secret sauce that you're helping mix up in order to interrupt this momentum Minnesota's got?
Well, I think one of the really good things, beneficial things for us, is that we saw them not so long ago, so we're very familiar with them. It's not a team that, we're walking into and haven't played since, summer or earlier than that. So we are familiar with what they bring. We're also familiar just after that game, having a real in-depth meeting with the coaches. Have a very good feeling about what we need to do differently if we're going to win this game.
Jason Kreis is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Playoffs begin with Minnesota. First to 2 wins advances. Now, when you're talking about any kind of series format in playoff soccer, playoff baseball, playoff basketball, whatever, there's the idea of wanting to get the work done quickly, and obviously, how important that is. Who's got more urgency here? Does it behoove you or Minnesota more to try and get 2 right out of the way, or is extending this thing and letting it play out in 3 going to be okay?
That's an interesting question. So it's a fairly new format here in MLS where we've gone to a best of 3. It's actually something that was used in the early days, and they went away from it. They went to a home and away series. They've come back to this with the idea that they want to reward the home field advantage team. They want to reward the team that has put in more effort and work and done better in the regular season in an effort to make the regular season games mean more. So, we feel that by having 2 of the games at home, we should be the favorites. And the interesting part is, of course, we want to get over into. We'd like to win at home and then go up there and get a result there and have the thing over. The problem with that thinking, though, is then you lose another home playoff match, which means revenue for the club. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess that's something that you have to think about in your role more than when you were a player or coach, right? Like, revenue for the club is not what they on field. You don't care about that nearly as much, but in the front office, you have to.
No, yeah, for sure. I never thought about things like that, and now it's I wouldn't even be privy to that conversation as a coach, because I probably would have strangled somebody if they told me that we need to go to 3 so we can have 2 home games and earn some more revenue. So interesting. Now, change of position brings different viewpoints. Well,
there's also, right, if you get the work done quickly in a playoff series, and whoever your next opponent is, maybe it takes them 3, and then you've got a longer layoff than they have, then there's the debate on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because if you're in form and you're playing well, you want to get right back out there and do it again, right? And if you so how do you manage that?
Well, it's another interesting aspect to our sport in that we have international breaks And unfortunately, our playoffs is interrupted by an international break that happens in November. So either way, whether you win in 2 or you win in 3, then you're looking at another 2-week break until your next playoff series.
That's wild. I don't like that one bit. All right. Club record in points scored this season. You've been around this club in different capacities for many years. How significant is that for this team to have set that record?
I think it's incredible, to be honest. I coached the team in 2012, which was the former record holders with 56 points or 57 points. This year, the team has made 59 points over the regular season, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. Anytime you have the opportunity to break a record and put your name in the record books, I think it means something special, and I'm really thankful and happy for the coaching staff and all the players that they did such a tremendous job this year, and now they are the new record holders. So, congrats to everyone involved.
When this roster was put together with some fresh faces and some rising young talent, how quickly in the project did you get a sense like, oh, this might be something? We might have something here.
Yeah, it's really interesting because at the beginning of the season, as I came in, I was fresh to the team this year. I was looking at the group and thinking, I'm not sure that this group will make the playoffs, but I do think there's some building blocks and there's some important pieces here to build around, and looked at it as probably going to be a couple of year process until the group reaches its potential, and then we start to play the games, and I'm thinking, wow, I guess we're a lot better than I had thought. And being around the players on a day-to-day basis where you're watching them every single week as opposed to looking from afar from Florida, you get to get a different perspective. So I've been really pleasantly surprised by how the group has come together. The team is actually playing in a different way than it ever has before, in a different tactical formation. The way we're approaching the games is different than it has ever been before. And it's been really, really pleasing to see how quickly the coaching staff has basically, gotten the players to buy into this new system, and the players have done really well within it. So everything has come together really nicely, and I think there's no doubt that we are cup contenders.
Unpredictability has been a theme on sports radio here in our home states. We're the home of the Utes, and obviously expectations have not been met on the football field there. That you got the Utah Jazz, you got the hockey club that are kind of all at different stages of these rebuilds, of this development. And, you guys are probably furthest along, at least of the professional franchises, finishing third in the West and being, like you said, cup contenders. The Jazz are not there. The hockey club is not yet there. The thing that gets a team over the hump from just being, third in the West to first in the West, from being a contender to maybe a cup favorite, how big is the step from being where you're at now to being the one that hoists a trophy at the end?
Well, I think we're there. I think we are contending for it, as I said. In essence, in Major League Soccer is probably perhaps maybe a little more level playing field than some of the other sports. But you make the playoffs and anything can happen, and it's been shown time and time again. Like I said, 2009, we barely made the playoffs. We actually are a below 500 team, and we went all the way that year. So there's no reason why this team couldn't be lifting a trophy here in another 6 weeks. So that is the hope, and I don't think it's just a hope or a fantasy or a dream. I think there's a real possibility.
Well, that is a possibility because of some of the bright spots on that roster. The whole roster obviously deserves credit, but some of the bright spots. Diego Luna has been a real standout. He's up for some awards. How significant is his role going to be as you chase that cup, as these final 6 weeks come into play?
Yeah, it's just going to be massively important that he continues to do what he has been doing over the last several weeks. He has been probably the primary difference maker in our roster over some of these last few games, been the guy that's scoring the goals or making the goals. So he's going to just need to continue doing what he's doing. We're not asking for more. We just ask for more of the same. Chicho Arango's the leading goal scorer on the team, but has gone through a run of difficult form for him. Hasn't scored a goal since July. So he's actually a guy that we need to step up a bit and start to produce the way he was in the first half of the season.
Jason Christ, my guest here for a few more minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show. You alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, I was joking about how you spend your time. There's some academy stuff. And on this roster now, this one that's, chasing a championship, you have, I think, what I have called multiple times, kind of proof of concept of why the academy system is so valuable, what it looks like when it actually works, when you produce that homegrown talent. I mean, Justin Glad, my first stint on ESPN 700 radio, this guy was one of those young players coming up and becoming a staple on the everyday roster, and now he's an all-star. I mean, this is the growth that I think you're looking for and what that academy system is supposed to produce. How much does it mean to this club to kind of have that play out, at least in a couple of these players, the way it's supposed to?
I think it's just a major piece of our identity at Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake is synonymous with development. As I've gone around to different clubs around the country, it's very well noted that RSL develops its own players and develops some very good ones. So it is part and parcel of the club. It is also something that the new ownership has come in and put major funds towards. And we feel very strongly that if we continue to do that and do it well, we're going to continue to develop top-level players to play in our first team. And the ultimate goal would be to then start selling those players internationally.
So development is part of culture, and as a franchise is trying to develop culture and an identity and, have a reputation that you try to live up to every single day, how involved are you in those discussions? How much of that is left to the players and the coaching staff kind of on their own? As someone who's been a part of the most important years for Real Salt Lake history and has an important role now, how much are you involved in that piece of what this franchise is?
Heavily involved. It was one of the selling points for me when I was speaking to the ownership to try to come here, was that I wanted to own a little bit of the identity building and the culture shaping within the club. So I guess if you say that you asked about special projects earlier, I think that would be considered one of my first special projects.
And so in a perfect world, what does a Jason Kreis club look like? What is the identity and what is that culture?
No, it's not a Jason Kreis club. The first thing that I did when I came in to try to establish that was ask a lot of the people that have been here for many years, some of their ideas about what Real Salt Lake is and what Real Salt Lake should be and what it should mean to the community. So a very collaborative process to establish what we think is a club that is a genuine reflection of the rest of the community. We want our fans to come to the games and essentially watch the team and feel like they're watching themselves and it's a piece of themselves. So, we are very tight-knit. We believe in a culture of togetherness. We believe that the sum of the parts can be greater than all of the additions. And so for us, it's all about being a team and having a real family environment.
All right, so as the playoffs begin tomorrow night at America First Field, 7 p.m., this new format, is it being embraced? Is it something because there's some familiarity with it being part of MLS play years ago that now people are like, okay, I know what this looks like? Sports fans often are resistant to change. Sometimes we get real excited about it, but sometimes people are like, no, I like the old comfortable way. What's been the consensus so far as this is relatively new?
A best-of-3 format, I think, fits in with the rest of the sports in our country, the professional sports. I think when it was a home and away series, I think that's where we had some fans having some hard times understanding that, because that's very much a European or worldwide soccer thing where you play home and away and the away goals count more than the home goals. That was probably a little bit difficult for people to understand. So, again, best of 3, we hope that it turns out the right way, and the right way in our minds is that it should give a real home field advantage, and that's ours.
As long as we're talking about international soccer, what does it mean that Man United has already gotten rid of their coach?
Well, Man United is an interesting case study because they had, they established an unbelievable team there under Alex Ferguson. They won so many things, European championships, Premier League titles, FA Cups. They were winning something every single year. And since he's left the club, they've had a real struggle to win anything. And they've had just so much turnover with players and with coaches, and they just haven't seemed to find their way. So that's what happens in the worldwide game. If you don't win often enough, and if you have ownership that believes they need to be winning things on a regular basis, coaches get fired in very short order.
Yeah, short leash indeed. Well, looking forward to the playoffs beginning. Good luck to you and the club, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Jason Kreis, Real Salt Lake legend, now the Director of Operations and Special Projects at Real Salt Lake. America First Field hosting that Minnesota versus RSL playoff game tomorrow night at 7. Alonzo, you going out to that?
No.
You're a busy man. You have a lot of things going on, so I never know which thing you're juggling on which given night.
You know what? This week I'm actually trying to lay low ahead of my trip to fully enjoy the bye week, but I'm more invested in the World Series at the moment.
What do you mean? You're taking another trip to enjoy the bye week?
Well, so I'm taking a trip because
last bye week was, 4 weeks ago?
And I got sick on that trip, so I did not enjoy that trip. It was not a good time.
Dude.
Straight up not a good time.
Okay, you know what? You know who you can have a good conversation about this with?
Who's that?
Jeff Schwartz. The man takes like 13 vacations a year. You're on the Jeff Schwartz train.
You got to treat yourself, OC.
I mean,
you have to.
I guess you do.
I mean, I listen.
Where are you going on this one? You're not going camping again as it gets a little crispy.
No. We're going to Portland. Me and the wife.
Okay.
My wife has spent a grand total of like 10 hours in Portland for a show, and she's never actually like hung out in Portland. So it's spooky season, and that's her favorite season. So
okay. Yes.
So we gotta get somewhere spooky.
Is Portland iconic for spooky season? Is that something I'm not aware of?
There's a lot of things up there for spooky season, but it's also, Josh Newman will attest to this, one of the most underrated parts of the country is the Pacific Northwest during this time of the year.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll take that.
I mean, I'd invite you.
I like Portland's food scene.
It's insane.
They've got unbelievable restaurants on every street corner. There's a lot of strange things about Portland.
That's why it's weird
as a city, but they've got a couple things that I really enjoy. You're a shout away from Nike headquarters.
Yep.
And everybody knows somebody. I know you know somebody if you want to go down there to HQ and go to the employee store.
And that's on the agenda. My wife doesn't know that yet, so she's going to be real butthurt when we leave the store there.
Your guy? Size 12.
I'll keep that in mind.
All right?
That's
all I'm saying. I don't wear Jordans.
I know, we need to have a conversation about that one day.
I do wear Dunks. I do wear Air Force Ones because they're great with the suit, okay?
They are.
So
it's a good suit shoe.
That's what I'm looking for.
But Portland is, like right now, it's the perfect time to go because it's right before it gets like cold. But the leaves are changing. The foliage is all about. Like, that's the one thing I will miss about the Pac-12 is when we make those Oregon trips around this time of the year. I loved going up there. Corvallis is one of my favorite places in the country, and I'm bummed that we're just not going to go there anytime soon.
I'm sorry.
I know.
It's not my fault, but I'm still sorry for you.
Yes, we have other people to blame for it. But I also I was informed by my overlords I may need to make an appearance at the World Series, so we'll talk through that tomorrow night.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I don't want to go
at the World Series. What do you mean you don't want to go?
Because New York, from here to New York, it's a thing.
Oh, you'd have to go to a New York game.
Yes, because of the trip. And it's as you know, those New York airports are not they're not great.
The problem with going to New York is the travel day. It's a long flight, and then to get from JFK or LaGuardia
is a nightmare.
To wherever you're going is another 2+ hours.
If you're lucky.
All right.
So that's why I'm like
you're fully in the world of first world problems when it comes to travel at this point.
100%. Yeah, I am as I ran into a buddy of mine on the flight to Houston, he was upset he wasn't upgraded because of our status. So I'm right there with him. I'm feeling that because I don't think I would be upgraded even with my status because it's New York.
Okay.
That flight's always, that flight's always full.
It's always full.
It's always full. And we're in the land of diamond status now. So amongst my peers, I'm not going to get upgraded.
Yeah.
You're diamond.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
So we run into the same problem.
That international, you get like, I don't know how many international flights I've taken this year for the PFL.
Enough.
But once you get
subtle flex, by the way.
Once you get more than like 4,
it's a wrap. You're done.
You feel good. You look down upon the peasants.
Yeah, you do the bell. Just shame, shame as you walk onto the plane.
All right. I know you answered the poll question already because I want to make sure we involve this conversation in the show today. Who's having a worse day? 29 for the Bears, who was celebrating while the play was happening, the Hail Mary miracle tip-in touchdown for the Commanders, and number 29 for the Bears, cornerback, like taunting the crowd, looking around, doing everything except what he's supposed to be doing. That is the worst day of film study you could ever have. Is he having the worst day, or is the sculptor of the Dwayne Wade statue that was just unveiled, is he having a worse day?
It's not even close. It's the sculptor. It's not even close, bro.
It's Tyreek Stevenson, by the way, the Bears corner.
Like the Bear, like there is so many things that you can look past in that Hail Mary situation, but the sculptor, that statue is there forever. And now that's
I don't think it is, honestly. I don't think it, like, because of the reaction, I think that statue gets replaced right quick.
It's never good when the recipient of the statue looks back at the statue and is like, who's that guy?
But I also just saw a video of him signing off on, I think, because you know how they do like the clay mold first?
Yeah.
I think he was misled. The clay mold looks a lot more like Dwayne Wade
Than the real deal.
So
there was an egregious misstep here somewhere. I mean, we talked about it a second ago off air. The Cristiano Ronaldo statue,
yes.
Which is, listen, Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the most handsome men to ever grace this earth. and that statue does not reflect
the statue. Well, they changed that one. They took that down.
Yeah, I know they took it down. But
he had that wonky face. That was like if he had an evil twin. That was the Cristiano Ronaldo statue that got put up initially. Here's the other thing about, if you're going to get a statue, and Kyle Whittingham is going to have a statue at Rice-Eccles Stadium eventually, whether he likes it or not, okay?
Yeah.
You need to just have the person's face, like they can be smiling maybe, or they can just be in a contemplative, like repose type expression.
Jaw-faced. Just go jaw-faced.
You cannot have some dynamic shout, even like the Cristiano Ronaldo one. It was his iconic, like, crooked smile. You think there's a trillion pictures of that? You think someone would be able to get it right? But, man.
You tell me you couldn't 3D print that joint? Like, that's where we're at now.
I mean, I have seen, just on my Instagram, I'm seeing AI doing crazy stuff. And you're telling me that we can't find a bronze statue that actually looks like Dwayne Wade?
Like, if you want a hand sculpt, like, from the neck down, rad. I'm down with that. But, like, head up, for accuracy's sake, you got that's unnecessary roughness on D. Wade.
You know what it looks like to me? Everyone's got their own. I told you who it looks like to me.
Yeah.
It is Frasier from Cheers. That's Kelsey Grammer on Dwayne Wade's body. And it just makes zero sense at all.
None whatsoever.
It's the best.
And my favorite part of it all is there's this giant presentation, right? They got this dope like cover of it. They got the cryo. D. Wade is coming out. The people are cheering. And then anticlimactic when you see the face.
Can you imagine the honor of knowing that you're going to be immortalized in bronze? That's going to be you there forever. Like, we got John and Carl out on the plaza at the Delta Center. Like, that's, wow, what an honor.
Yeah.
And then they unveil that thing, and you're just like, who's that guy? Whose face is that?
I mean, insert Conor McGregor meme. I mean, because that's what happened.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
Oh, you talk about disappointment. And it's kind of like when you get the Christmas present you didn't actually want.
Yeah.
You got to do like the fake smile, like thank you.
And here's the part I thought about. That poor artist, who's probably, way better of a sculptor than I'll ever be. That's for damn sure. Spent hours upon hundreds of hours. So many hours. And then now is just getting flamed on the internet. Just up in flames, wildfire, out of control, can't stop.
You want to talk about something that'll ruin someone's career? That you talk about protecting Isaac Wilson's confidence. That sculptor can never make a statue again.
No.
Confidence destroyed.
Or it's like, hey, if you're gonna make statues again, you got to start like at the very bottom and start with bulls. Like, start with bulls again, and let's go from there. Because I mean, it's tough. That's tough.
Like, you can no longer sculpt human beings.
No.
You can carve those like those round marble paperweights.
We're just starting with bulls, and we'll just go from there. That's just where we're at.
Oh my gosh, bad day to be a sculptor.
Oh man. Oh boy.
But also, you don't want to be seen celebrating and then being the guy who tipped the ball to the receiver that ended up catching the game winner. Tyreek Stevenson is having a bad day.
And apologies to that receiver, I'm forgetting his name, but Jaden Daniels held onto that ball for 12.7 seconds.
It's insane.
That's insane.
Also, if you're Tyreek Stevenson and you're playing on the opposite side of former Ute Jalen Johnson, who's the best corner in the league this year,
yeah,
and he sees you doing that, and then you tip the ball that gets caught for the Hail Mary victory for your opponent, your position room today is frosty.
Oh, there's a kangaroo court happening right now. There absolutely is. There is no way that there isn't a kangaroo court.
I need to see Tyreek Stevenson and the sculptor of the D. Wade statue in the same room together, just like group therapy session. That's what I want.
And then as Jalen just walks in and slaps the head of Tyreek Stevenson just upside of it, what's wrong with you?
All right. Look, Chad Jennings is going to join us next. Major League Baseball insider at The Athletic. Do you want me to just dip out of this conversation so you can just talk Dodgers? I know how pumped you are.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea because you hate baseball, but I mean, that's where we're at.
Why do you keep saying that?
It's a bit.
I don't like that you keep saying it.
Okay, fine.
It hurts my feelings.
I'm sorry I'm hurting your feelings.
I don't hate baseball.
You just dislike it.
I get bored by baseball, but not postseason baseball. I get bored by regular season baseball.
Wait, hold on. Game 1 Friday, this past Friday. We were texting actually during the game. How pumped were you watching that game?
Well,
because you don't really have a horse in the race.
There's no horse in the race for me. Watching a walk-off grand slam moment, I was like, okay.
I'm in.
That's cool. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not going to pretend that I'm on the Sariñana family Dodger fanaticism.
No, I know you want me to suffer. It's okay, though, because you hate all my sports teams. It's okay. It's okay.
You know what, though? This time around, I'm actually on board because I hate the Yankees worse.
I think this entire series is either an F the Yankees type of situation or the other side is the same.
Yes.
There's no in between.
That's right.
There's no in between.
You either hate the Dodgers or you hate the Yankees. Or I guess if you're a weirdo like you actually like one of those teams.
Wow.
Anyway.
Coach Witt, Yankees fan, by the way. Big Yankee fan.
Kyle Whittingham doesn't even know that the World Series is happening right now because he's so intensely trying to figure out what is going on with his own team.
I just remember you went scorched earth when he ended that presser a couple weeks ago with "Go Yankees."
Yeah, that was not good. Wait, was that when everything went south? It is.
Oh, no.
It is. Is that the moment that cursed Utah football?
We're blaming the Yankees?
Kyle Whittingham finished a post-win. They were 4-0 at that point, right?
I believe so.
And he said, "Go Yankees."
Oh, no. Aaron Boone, you're dead to everybody here.
Oh, my gosh.
Fight on. Oh, that's the problem. Aaron Boone, USC guy, conspiracy theorist here. Big USC guy, doesn't like the UCLA stuff. He talked about it publicly.
All right, so here's what we do. This is what's going to solve Utah football's problems. Alonzo's going to take a recording device to the facility, and he's going to get Kyle Whittingham to say, "Go Dodgers," and then everything is right with the world again.
And then he's going to literally yeet me out of the facility.
Chad Jennings to talk a little baseball. World Series next on ESPN 700. from Alonzo himself. But joining me to talk about the World Series baseball insider at The Athletic, Chad Jennings. Chad, welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. How are you?
So I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing awesome. This World Series has been fun so far. Less fun for me because, like I said, Alonzo, a dyed-in-the-wool Dodger fan, is just hard to be around when his team is looking so good. But through a couple of games, is this going the way you thought it would?
I mean, close games that are exciting, sure. I don't know that I went in thinking that it was going to be 2-0. I mean, this is the Dodgers take both at home, and you feel, I mean, they're in such control of the series, but in a series that still feels relatively close, right? I mean, you had the Yamamoto start he was so good in game 2 that it made that game feel like it was more than it was a 3-run game, most of the time that felt a lot bigger than that. But, ultimately it's been 2 good games, and you're one Freddie Freeman swing away from it being a tied series. So, in the sense that it's been good games, close games, that's maybe what I expected, but I don't know that I went in assuming that the Dodgers would be up 2-0.
ESPN has posed a very interesting question that I'm going to pass on to you. How many future Hall of Famers are playing in this World Series?
Yeah, well, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really thought about it. Soto for sure, Judge, you'd assume Shohei, Mookie, maybe Freddie, maybe Cole. I don't think we have a good sense of what a Hall of Fame pitcher is in the current baseball ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, isn't that something? I mean, we're going to look again. I think back to the Dodgers win in 20, right? And I think everyone sort of, I mean, look, they won a World Series. You don't take that away. They did what they were tasked with doing, but it's always going to feel different. I mean, that just was such a different year. And so if that's the series that they've won so far, is this one that you kind of can dismiss? You can't dismiss this one. Whichever team wins this World Series, this is a heavyweight matchup. If you win this series, you've got to earn it. And I think that's the idea of that many Hall of Famers speaks to that. There is some really extreme talent in this series. And so, quite the opposite of the 2020 World Series. Whoever wins this one, this could go down as one of the more, I mean, like one of the more impressive championships, just because it came down to these two.
I got to admit that sometimes games like this, series like this, where it's New York versus LA, we live in Salt Lake City, right? So there's probably some bias here, but I'm always like, in the modern ecosystem of sports and how accessible and easy it is to see whatever team you want, get information and coverage on whatever team you want, it doesn't have to be New York or LA to feel big anymore. And then you see the ratings coming out of the series, and then you see New York and LA and a walk-off grand slam in game 1.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? Damn it, I'm wrong. It just feels bigger.
Yeah, where I see it is my oldest son is 7. And so he's just getting into it, right? He knows that I watch a lot of baseball, obviously, and so he's into it, but he's still young enough that all he knows are the stars.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, he knows Aaron Judge and he knows Shohei Ohtani. And so I think he would have been sort of interested in any World Series, whatever. He knows what the World Series is. He would have been into it. Man, he loves this. I mean, he can't stay up till the end of the game. Every morning, what happened, asking about, what can I see, do you have video? Can I watch the Freddie Freeman? Can I watch the Grand Slam? Like trying to find, I don't know. You think about trying to lure in sort of the more casual fans. And it's not just that it's the Dodgers and Yankees. It is, I think a lot of it is those players, right? I mean, so much attention on Shohei, but also Judge is what he is. Juan Soto is who he is. Mookie, Freddie, again, like you go through the list all over again, but the stars play, man. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. If you put it being the Dodgers and Yankees is part of the mix here, but if you put these same rosters with these superstar caliber players somewhere else, I still think you'd have some of the same effect. It is just, it's the value of having, it's probably the 2 MVPs in the league facing one another in the World Series and in a series too, where aside from Judge, the stars have performed. That I think that matters too, that some of the big moments, are coming down to those players, the name guys that people are tuning in to watch.
Through a couple games, Aaron Judge has not looked himself. Do you know why, and do you think that he gets right?
I mean, I think he's too good to stay this way, but he seems to be starting to reach a little bit now, trying to kind of push it. And he sort of alluded to that the other day, talking about that it comes down to swinging at strikes for him. It just feels like he knows he wants to be a difference maker. You think of game 2 there at the end, Soto gets on and now Judge is up. That didn't look like an at bat to me where he's trying to help set the table too. He wants to make a difference here. He wanted to follow with his own double, or he wants to hit a home run to put him within a run, or whatever. It feels to me now that maybe he's trying to. He can't have a game when he's 0 for 1 and walks 3 times and have everyone feel like, oh, Judge chipped in. No, like he's got to do something, and I feel like maybe that's weighing on him a little bit. That's just what it looks like from afar. Obviously, I don't know, but it looks to me that way, that he's trying pretty hard now to make a difference and wanting to do it swinging the bat rather than sort of like working at bat and waiting for his pitch. I think he's trying to force the action. Again, that's what it looks like to me.
Scary moment the other night when Shohei Ohtani goes down, stays down, gets up very gingerly, clutching the arm to his body. Partial dislocation of the left shoulder. How concerned should we be that we see Ohtani in game 3 and beyond, but he's not going to be the same?
Well, I mean, he's hitting left-handed, right? So I think he could still hit if he's still got, if the way they're talking about it is that, the initial testing, Robert said, looked like strength was good, range of motion is still good. I don't know that this has to be some devastating injury for him. We'll have to see. It didn't, because it also just didn't look that bad, right? I mean, The Athletic does this live blog thing where we have some players helping us out and sort of giving us some analysis. Max Stassi, the longtime Major League catcher, he was part of it for us the other night when the slide happened, and he was like, it didn't look. Nothing in the slide looked off. He came down hard. He obviously came down harder than usual on his arm, it looked like, and that's what did it to the shoulder. It's just how much of that, it can happen where a guy you can dislocate a shoulder, I think, and not have it end up being that much of an impactful thing. So I don't know. I would think it sounds like the Dodgers are hopeful that he could even be in the lineup tonight, I think. I mean, it's, that it might not be that much, but it's going to be plenty of attention on it. I mean, if he'd been playing pretty well, so if he comes in here now and takes an 0 for 4 tonight, or the swing doesn't look quite right, he doesn't have the power, that we're certainly going to question, how much is that injury taking its toll?
Talking World Series with Chad Jennings of The Athletic here on the Sean O'Connell Show. So Freddie Freeman, I mean, if the series ended today, he's already had a pretty storybook ending to the season. Like the whole thing with, the grand slam and then immediately going over and talking to his dad and giving his dad all that credit. I mean, this is why you stay romantic about baseball, even in an era where guys are making $500 million on their contracts.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not the one who said this initially. I wish I could remember who said it first, but that there was Freddie Freeman was always going to be a Brave, right? Like that's what you think of Freddie Freeman, and he's just sort of finishing up his career with the Dodgers. But now you have this moment, and now it's kind of like, all right, maybe he's both, like when he retires and he's done, I think my expectation was we're always going to go like, oh yeah, he finished with his last few years were in LA, but you think of him as an Atlanta Brave. But this World Series, like this may be where he becomes a Dodger too. Right. I don't know that he's ever going to fully eclipse all the time he spent in Atlanta. But this may be the kind of thing that makes it where when it's all said and done, we're going to remember him as a guy who had a massive impact on both franchises. Because it's just, again, if they win this series, he's going to be such a huge part of that.
How do you anticipate the pitching to work out for both teams as we head down the stretch in this series? Because you get to empty the clips. It's the World Series. Everyone gets rest after this. Will the rotation stay relatively normal, or are we going to see some trickeration?
Well, this is where it gets tricky for the Dodgers, right? They basically have two real full go starters, and to their credit, Flaherty and Yamamoto both performed. But now you've got Buehler, who I mean, look, it's Walker Buehler. I mean, you remember what he was in 2021, but he hasn't been quite the same this year coming back from Tommy John. So what can he give you, and how much of it can he give? Because he looked all right, and his ALCS start was pretty good. It was only 4 innings, but it was pretty good. And so I wonder if you're going to have to, is the leash going to be similarly short with him, where you're just hoping he can get 1 or 2 turns through the order? I doubt you ask him to go a third turn through the order. So whatever that means, 4 innings, 5 innings, that's kind of a max that you can get out of him. And then I assume it's going to be basically a bullpen game in Game 4. I mean, that's what they've been doing. And maybe it works. I mean, again, especially if Buehler can give him at least something of a distance, right? If you can get through 4 or 5, then maybe you're in decent shape. For the Yankees, it's a little more straightforward. I mean, it's Clark Schmidt, Luis Heel. They're going to just play this like normal. Their bullpen's not as deep, I don't think, as the Dodgers. But their bullpen's pitched relatively well, except for the Cortez pitch. It's just, I mean, we're going to see a little bit here from the Dodgers these next 2 games. It's going to look a little different. I think we're going to have much shorter starts in these next 2. But again, they got enough out of games 1 and 2 that bullpen could be up for it.
Do you expect the Yankees to get one back tonight?
I expect the Yankees to get one back one of these nights. I don't think that I mean, again, you just can't imagine 2 teams that are this good, that this series is going to be a sweep. Now, whether that's tonight or tomorrow night, who knows? But I certainly expect the Yankees to at least get one at Yankee Stadium. It's just, if it's tonight though, and some of that momentum shifts, because man, I tell you what, man, coming out of Game 2, the Dodgers just seem locked in, don't they? I mean, they really seem like they're on such a roll, and their confidence has to be so high. It's going to be tough if they're up 3-0. If you're the Yankees, I think you really feel like it's vital that you come out tonight and sort of punch back, just to keep it from feeling like just a runaway train that you can't stop.
Chad, last thing before I let you go, has nothing to do with the World Series. It's for the Salt Lake baseball fans here. There's an idea, now that we got a hockey team, that it's an eventuality that Major League Baseball ends up in Salt Lake City. You got experienced ownership looking to make that happen. Every time I go to the airport, I drive past the proposed ballpark district. It feels like an organized bid situation. The Oakland A's in Vegas, or precarious, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think we ever get a Major League Baseball team here in Salt Lake?
I hope you do. I think that would be awesome. But look, I mean, it's Salt Lake. There's Nashville, right? There's a huge push in Nashville too to get a team. Somewhat of a push for places like Montreal, Mexico City, even a little bit has been talked about. So I don't know. To me, it is really hard for me to know where they ultimately could land on this. But and as you see with Oakland, right? I mean, it's factors that are factors in this thing can get kind of messy and a little bit weird. So I don't know. I hope so. I think they're going to expand. I think the league is going to expand here at some point in the next 10 years or so. I do think 2 of the more interesting possibilities are Salt Lake City and Nashville. But again, which one they would actually end up going for, I think, is just there are so many factors in it that it's hard to know until we get a little bit closer to that kind of a decision.
Appreciate your time today, Chad, and your insight. Thank you very much.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Chad Jennings of The Athletic, MLB insider, spends a lot of time on the Boston Red Sox, but it's a New York versus L.A. World Series. And, yes, my guy Alonzo he's feeling too good about the baseball side of things right now.
I'm not feeling too good, but I'm feeling okay. I feel okay about it, but I still think it's going to go 7 games, honestly.
Well, that's good for baseball fans.
It is.
We'll give away some tickets with a little trivia next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. pop culture news. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Big thanks for the highlight on that World Series. Are you familiar with the World Series, Alonzo? You know this is happening right now?
I'm familiar with the World Series. I just don't know if the Spencer Checketts household is aware that there's a World Series.
We're gonna talk to Spence here in just a second, all right? USA Women's Hockey is taking on Canada in the rivalry series happening at the Maverick Center November 8th. You can listen all week right here on the Sean O'Connell Show to win a pair of tickets. Details are on ESPN700sports.com. We're going to give those tickets away right now. I alluded to this once earlier in the show, okay? It has been now 4 weeks since Utah has gotten a sack from a defensive end. Now, or a defensive lineman. Their defensive front has not produced a sack in 4 weeks. One sack in that interim created by the team. And who got that sack? 877-353-0700. 877-353-0700 on the Dish Pros text line. That'll get you some lemon shark poke and some tickets to USA Women's Hockey taking on Canada at the rivalry series at the Maverick Center November 8th. If you can tell me who got that sack.
By the way, the music choice, not even going to get into it, but that's Notorious B.I.G.'s song for anyone asking questions. Biggie.
Yeah.
Biggie himself.
Okay.
No one else.
Okay.
Mace is also on that feature.
Yes, just Mace and Biggie.
Yeah.
Yep, got it.
All right.
All right.
Cool. Good talk. Go team.
The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up. Spence is kind enough to spend a few minutes here talking with me. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm good. Rough sports weekend for your boy over here. We were talking off air. The Utah lack of getting to the quarterback is stunning to me. And I didn't even know the stat until you hit me with it off air. And as I said to you when I came in studio, I get a lot wrong. I'm wrong a lot, okay? Sometimes you get some stuff right. Sometimes you get some stuff wrong. I don't think I've ever been more wrong about a team than I've been this year with Utah football. Yeah. Like, in 18 years of doing this is honestly blowing my mind.
Yes, it has blown my mind. And the lack of answers, the inability for us to find answers, for the coaching staff, much more importantly, to find answers, has been equally perplexing. I laid it out at the beginning of the show today. You have 12 days to determine the future of Utah football. This game against BYU, because of where they are at, because of where you are at in this season, in these next 12 days, Utah is either going to respond to the challenge, they're either going to rise to the occasion, this team is either going to prove that the culture is still intact and still exists, or the opposite is going to happen, and there's going to be a diaspora, there's going to be a huge problem, there's going to be a lot of come-to-Jesus talks in that building, there's going to be hard decisions made on the coaching staff. And look, I'm still a believer that we are at this place of high expectations, elevated expectations, because of what this coaching staff is and has built over 20 years. And restoring that is a possibility, but only the players can do it. And I don't know if the culture is intact with these players. They have to determine that, and they have 12 days to do it.
Well, and I'll give you credit because last week I was the guy that was holding on to the last branch before I actually fell out of the tree. And I would ask everybody, okay, with what is still ahead as far as opportunities, to play and maybe beat good teams, are you willing to still believe? And you made some really good points that the data is not there at this point for us to believe they can turn it around. I had no premonition that they would go down and lose to Houston, who a lot of people believe is the worst team in the Big 12.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah,
but
neither did I. And, kind of following the game and then getting home and watching it, via DVR, like nothing is working. Cole misses a couple of field goals. The special teams isn't good. The defense with a couple of, fourth down goal line stands, which kept them in the game. And now we're going to do the dog and pony show with Isaac and Brandon for 2 weeks, and I think people are already sick of that. And I don't know that it matters who's under center at this point. It's just so wild to me that most everybody, both locally and nationally, if you didn't pick Utah to win the Big 12, you had them in your top 2 or 3, without exception. And they might be the worst team in the conference. And it's unbelievable. I'm floored, man. I'm blown away.
Oklahoma State is the worst team in the conference.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, another top 2 or 3 pick for most people to win the conference championship.
And Florida State is having an even worse season than Utah is relative to the expectations. But the point stands that this is an absolute mystery, and there are people making millions and millions of dollars up there, now players and coaches, who are tasked with trying to figure it out. But I will say this every day until we kick off against BYU. The countdown is on. Today it is 12 days. Tomorrow it is 11 days. Then it's going to be 10 days. You have to figure this out in that exact amount of time. Because if you lose to BYU, your season is done, and this program changes forever.
And at this point, sitting here today, I can't believe I'll say it out loud. I don't have confidence this Monday that they're going to get it done in time for a BYU team right now that is good, is complete, is rolling, has confidence. And you know they're licking their chops, man. They see a wounded animal up here, and they want to come for blood, right?
Yes.
So, yes, your point, massive 12 days. When your season has been whittled down to plain spoiler, it's not a good look for a team that was supposed to win the conference and is used to competing for conference championships. To your point, the coaching staff still deserves the benefit of the doubt. The coaching staff still deserves the benefit of the doubt. But if it looks bad against BYU, we're going to have a different conversation.
Last thing, I put a poll question out, as I do every single day, and I knew it was going to look like this, so I almost didn't want to put it out. Utah's record in the final 4 games of the season will be, and the answers I provided, 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, 0-4. 42% of the votes coming in at 0-4.
Oh, man.
The pessimism of Utah football fans.
People are down, man.
And it's totally understandable.
People are down, yeah.
As to why they are. And you look at how BYU's playing, you look at how Colorado looks right now. They look good.
Yep.
Iowa State. UCF is your hope, and that's a tough place. You go down to the bounce house.
3 time zones,
Thanksgiving. It's going to look. But I know that everyone's down on this coaching staff right now. Do your best, if you can, rewind even like 18 months and say, hey, who can fix a problem in a team culture? If there's any coach out there who can do it, don't ask us. Call up Joel Klatt, call up Brock Heward, call up Urban Meyer, call up these guys who are making millions sitting on a desk somewhere and ask them, what coach would you have, or give me the short list of coaches that you would bring in to fix the culture of your program? And Kyle Whittingham's name comes out of everyone's mouth.
Can't argue with that, yeah.
So let's not lose faith altogether that the job can still be done. I'll leave it there.
Dude, I was holding on to the last branch last week, and now I'm face down in the mud. Like, after what happened on Saturday, I can't spin it, man. I can't. I tried last week because, to your point, I've seen Kyle turn teams around, and I've seen bad starts turn into good finishes. On this Monday, I don't know that I'm there, man. I don't know that I have it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, well, I spent a lot of time saying things to the opposite effect today, and I hope I'm not contributing to any problems. But
are they tanking? Huh? Can we throw that out there? I haven't heard anybody say that.
For number 1 recruit.
Is Utah tanking?
Jerome Miles?
Maybe they're playing chess while we're playing checkers. Who knows?
Not how it works, unfortunately. All right.
Oh, man.
Enjoy the drive with Spence Checketts.
Thanks, buddy.
Sounds like it's going to be a very positive show today.
We're going to do our best. We're going to try. But a lot of Utah football, a little Jazz, a little hockey club, a little RSL, like we do every day.
Bad weekends for everyone, except, I guess, RSL. ESPN 700, number 1 sports talk.